It's time for the drive with Q on Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. Now, here's Q.
Good afternoon, everyone. 3 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. It is indeed a Football Friday edition of The Drive with Q, coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game studio, Southwest Florida's newest game in town. I'm your host, as always, Rich Quinones, mi hermano Angel Martinez, behind the glass, producing the show, keeping us on the air 2+ hours, because we know we're going into overtime on this Friday to play with. As always, get in on the conversation, 727-858-6650. Bring something to the table on this 13th, Friday the 13th, and yes, there is some scary nonsense going out there in the sports world. 2024. Buckle up, busy show. Lloyd Vance is going to join us as he typically does when we do our week 2 picks. Also, Nick Costco, his picks as well. Nick's picks for another weekend of college football. And I'm telling you right now, it's not the sexiest weekend, but there's enough to get the juices flowing, so to speak, in college football. The NFL, it's where it's at. We'll mix in my plays. We're trying to work on a couple other guests here and there before we get out of here on a Friday. Last week, by the way, 2 and 3 from the picks from our good friends over at Play It Again Sports and Fresh Roasted Coffee. So we will make amends. I think everyone was loading up on the Buffalo Bills last night. Thursday night football in a game that, let's be honest, the outcome is secondary. Buffalo absolutely waxing the Miami Dolphins. And the storyline of the game, once again, is Tua. And I feel bad for this kid. I really do. I absolutely feel bad for this kid because he's endured so much in such a short span of an NFL career. And he got concussed again last night. And I know everyone today there's a couple schools of thought here, right? And I heard some former players and some current players talk about you have to teach the quarterbacks to slide. You have to teach the quarterbacks how to absorb the contact, to hit, how to, if you're lowering the shoulder, don't lower the head, just slide. It's textbook. Learn this in Pop Warner in high school, in college, and now in the pros. Go over this. This could have all been averted. Well, sometimes, you know what? The man upstairs has a say. He's got a couple cards in the pot and the hand. And I don't know if Tua is just not meant to play NFL football anymore. I don't know. But I'll tell you this. I know everyone, the question, the comments, the issues, the dialogue, the debate, and we're going to do it. It's going to be this. Should Tua retire? Right? That's where everyone, and I posted, and we posted this poll question. And it's kind of ironic because you got other stations in Southwest Florida. I guess they like to piggyback on what we're doing, but whatever. We enjoy it. Post pretty much the same question. Have fun with it. We know where the eyeballs are at. But should Tua retire? Should Tua sit down and really have that conversation with himself and his family? Is it time? And I'll tell you this. It's a tough question to ask. It's going to be a tougher question for Tua to answer. Now, follow me with this, because he's been concussed a couple times in his career. And last night just reminded me of a fighter that was out on his feet, because you kind of saw the arm get extended, and that's never a good thing. And it's easy for us in doing what we do to sit back and just say, yes, go ahead, retire. Yep, you have to, you have to, you have to, you have to, you have to retire. Stop playing with your life. Stop playing with your family. Stop playing with your health. Then there's going to be the other schools of thought. Hey, man, it's his life. It's his body. It's his career. Let him decide what he's going to do. Or let the Miami Dolphins and the medical staff and the physicians step in, the neurologists step in and say, one more hit and you're done. We don't think you should play anymore. So it is a very tough question to ask. It really is. And I believe it is a tougher question to answer, because everyone has this idea in their head, in their mind, on if or when a player should call it quits. Is it time? Do you need to go out there anymore? And the reason I say it is a tougher question to answer, because think about that, man. Think about being a pro. Think about being a professional athlete. And you go through the trenches. You do everything in your power since you were a little kid. You've invested pretty much your whole livelihood, right? Everything into this. And then you latch on to your high school team. You get the scholarship. You excel in college. And then you have an opportunity to get drafted. And now all of a sudden you're drafted and you're playing pro ball and your dreams are coming, true. And all of a sudden you're excelling and you're succeeding and you're putting up numbers and you got branding and marketing and name recognition and you're getting big contracts and the fans love you. They adore you. You're a face of the franchise and you're making millions and millions and millions, and you keep getting hurt. And you keep getting your bell rung. Who are we to tell you to stop doing that? Who are we to tell you to continue doing that? That's why I go back to, it's such a very tough question to ask, and it is a tougher question to answer. Because you don't know what these athletes are going through. Nobody does. When guys get injured and guys have to have surgery and you're like, oh man, I feel bad for this guy. He's got another torn ACL, another MCL, he's got to work his way through this over and over and over and over. You want to see that player succeed, do you not? Now, I can sit there and tell you, well, if a player looks like a shell of themselves, then it's pretty much easy to answer. In the fight game, you watch some of these boxers, whether they're at the club level, the journeyman fighter, the gatekeeper, contender, perennial contender, or an all-time great. Every fighter, every boxer thinks they have one more round in them. They think they have one more combination. They think they can throw the jab one more time. They think they got one more power shot. And they might, until they get cracked, until they get countered, until their ass hits the canvas. It's a different story, man. And it's tough to watch. And I've seen it. I've called hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fights. And I've seen some really good fighters, some fringe contenders, some former world champs. They want to go out dying with their boots on. And they wind up back on their ass, on their back. And it's tough to watch. They got nothing left. When you start to mess around with the head, and we're talking about concussions, and your brain getting scrambled left and right every time you get hit, you don't mess with that, folks. You don't. And you'll have players coming out right now, like a Tony Gonzalez that dealt with some concussions, like an Antonio Pierce. I don't know if Troy Aikman had a comment or not. But again, calls will grow for Tua to retire. And the sad thing is, I think the kid can play. I'm a Tua fan. I mean, think about this. Under Flores, he really didn't excel until McDaniel came in. Then he started to put up numbers. This kid was arguably NFL MVP. And we saw it a couple years ago. 26 touchdowns, 9 picks, missed a couple games. Last year, complete season, 4,000 yards, over 4,000 yards. 20-something odd touchdowns, couple picks. And he can play. He's a good quarterback. I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's a top 10 quarterback, but I think he's a very good quarterback, top 15. He puts up numbers, but he's also 26. He's also still a pup. He's a young kid, a young man, and that's why everyone's saying, you got to retire. You got to call it quits. I believe that Tua is such a deep thinker, a spiritual type of individual because of his lineage and because of his heritage. He's going to rely on that. And he's going to make a smart decision, a sound decision. But it's tough to watch, man, because when you think about it from a business standpoint, hell with the X's and O's, look at all the money. I mean, look at all the money that they invested in him, right? Sterling Sharp, concussion. Shannon Sharp, concussions. Troy Aikman, concussions. Kurt Warner, concussions. Eric Lindros in the NHL, concussions. You're talking about repeated blows to the head, man. Those are the risk factors when we start to talk about long-term brain injuries, CTE, which obviously we've seen with players causes early dementia and death. And the problem is there's no magic formula. There's no magic number at all. None. There's no magic number when you start to say, is this hit the next hit? And that's the scary part. It really is. That's the scary part of this whole equation. Right? And you hate to see it. You don't want to see it. We really don't. It's, again, man, this is damned if you do, damned if you don't, because I know what's going to happen. I know we're going to get it today. And you know, all comments, thoughts, opinions, dialogue, it's all welcome on the show. It's what we do here. It's all welcome on the drive. 727-858-6650. There's going to be the Monday morning, or in this case, the Friday morning quarterbacking. They shouldn't have paid him. Right? Use a different helmet. This is why you don't give the type of money you do to quarterbacks. Again, I get it. I get it. I understand where you guys are coming from. Are we having the conversation, though, if he just throws 3 picks? No, we're not. It's because he got nailed again. He got concussed. I mean, obviously, that's why we're having this conversation. I mean, there's no magic number on how many concussions retire someone to turn around and retirement. They just don't. Remember back in the day? You would listen to these players in the 70s? That's another thing. You know, if you go back and if you watch these games, right? And I still believe in the 70s and the 80s, like in the 80s, you know, mid 80s, late 80s, everything growing up watching these games, NFL and CBS Today, NFL and, you know, right, NBC, whatever, ABC, Monday Night Football. Anytime a guy got hit, what did the announcer say? Pat, John, you know, Jimmy Nance, you know, Diodorf, Howard Cosell, Al Michaels, they never said he's concussed. He got a bell rung. That's what they would say. No, looks like he got his bell rung. Go to the sideline, coming back in. Now, you can't mess with that nonsense. You can't. You can't mess with that stuff. And they are stuck between a rock and a hard place. They really are, because the rough side of it, the business side of it, the side that you have to bring up is the money that they invested in him. And it's a fair comment if you guys make it because of his injury history. And I'm okay with that. But it is a little Monday morning quarterbacking, but it's a legitimate comment. But again, he led the league in passing yards. They won 11 games. They just couldn't beat Buffalo on Sunday night because Josh Allen went nuts and they had to go to Kansas City on the road. Nobody's winning in Kansas City on the road in January. It was their most wins since 2008. I was an advocate. Pay the kid. Pay that man his money. And what do? They give him $212 million contract extension. So if he chooses to retire, the question is how much of that compensation is he going to receive will depend on whether he's medically cleared to return to football. That's the other caveat. Do you really think? See, no one's talking about this. Everyone can sit there and say, you got to retire, you got to retire, you got to retire. Do you guys realize if Tua's cleared to play but retires anyway, you know how much money he's walking away from? $124 million. Now, if he's medically forced into retirement, he's going to collect that money, according to SpotTrack, which basically tracks sports contracts. So again, if he's cleared to play and he retires anyway, that's what he's walking away from. But if the doctors and the brass sit him down and say, hey, you cannot play anymore, then that's a different story. But it was tough to watch last night. It really was. You can't ask these guys to step away. Nobody knows the ticker. Nobody knows what's inside of them. I mean, you're asking someone take this away from me. It's like on a lesser extent, and I wish I was making hundreds of $1,000,000. I'm fighting, scratching, clawing. You're not taking this away from me. You're not. Livelihood is my passion. This is their livelihood, their passion, their career. And it's really hard, to listen to people sit there at the mountaintop and say, this is what you need to do. Like, who are you to tell him he needs to retire? I mean, it's low-bearing fruit if this kid continues to play and he's medically cleared and God forbid gets concussed again and has permanent brain damage. Then everyone's going to come out of the woodwork. CQ, you were wrong. You're off base. You need to shut up. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Or X, Y, and Z. Okay, fine. You got me. You got me. Guilty as charged. Like in my heart says this kid needs to retire. Right? My heart says that because you don't want to see him get hurt. But my head is saying, hey, man, I get it. You don't want to give up. You're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And you just don't want to give up what you're passionate about. And in this case, he's a starting quarterback of the Miami Dolphins, who, oh, by the way, the whole complexion now of the AFC East changes. Everything changes. And I hate to bring it up. Futures, the line, the market, everything changes right now. All bets are off if he's out for a couple weeks. And you got to figure out a way, maybe bring in a veteran, maybe go after a Tannehill, maybe call a veteran, add a little depth, and figure out how you're going to win some ball games. That's a gut punch last night. And Buffalo took advantage of it. I mean, first of all, that game was over prior to because they were running all over Miami defense. I mean, I thought Buffalo didn't look right. Miami hasn't looked right. I mean, they didn't look right last night. They didn't look right in week one either. They had to come from behind. But man, I'm telling you, it's really tough to tell these guys what to do. It is. It really is, man. It's just, are they going to listen? I don't know. 727-858-6650. It is a tough question to ask and an even tougher question to answer. All right, we'll get your text, calls, thoughts on the other side. 727-858-6650. Lloyd Van's going to join us today. Costco as well with his football picks. And memory serves me correct, I think that'll be at 3:40-ish. So we'll have a little fun with that. His I guess you can say 4-pack, not a 6-pack, is 4-pack. I think they used to have Zima in 4-pack, his 4-pack of picks from our good friends over at Zen Concepts and Played Again Sports. 20 past 3 o'clock hour. All right, we're just cranking it up. 727-858-6650. I want to hear what you guys have to say. What's your thoughts on the Tua situation? It's tough, man. It's tough. Every talking head's going to scream at the mountaintop. He's got to retire. He's got to retire. He's got to retire. Okay. He doesn't. He doesn't. If he's medically cleared to play, he's going to play. Unless he sits down with his family and they say it's not worth it. But I told you, man, that chunk of change, I just want to reiterate this. If he is cleared to play but retires anyway, he's foregoing $124 million. So perhaps he's got $124 million, 124 million reasons to play. All right, cranking it up. Football Friday edition of The Drive right here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The game powered by Coastal Sports Network. ION TV for all your update, traffic, weather alerts, accident alerts. Check out the guys on ION TV. Let me tell you real quick about my good friends over at Played Again Sports. I know Labor Day is gone. The kids are back to school, but check them out online and visit them. South Jersey location in Deptford, 1450 Clements Bridge Road in Deptford, New Jersey. You want to talk about having everything right there at your fingertip when you're talking about sporting equipment, slightly used sporting goods in terms of all sports with a focus on golf, by the way. They're offering cash and trade in for your slightly used teams and items. No appointment necessary. You give them a call, 856-579-8250. I was in there about 2 weeks ago. They got all these authentic football jerseys and whatnot. Visit them online, playedagainsports.com. Choose Deptford. They got a couple new locations opening up as well, so we appreciate them always being part of the drive with Q. All right, 20 past 3 o'clock hour. Crank it up with your calls, your texts, and your comments on the other side.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontp.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Download the Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game app and tell your friends that Florida has a new leader in digital sports radio.
Always good to hear from Bumper Guy on a Football Friday edition of The Drive. You know, the game last night, Buffalo pretty much started themselves, which is interesting because of week 2, and I want to get into your thoughts and comments as well. 727-858-6650. Lloyd Vance will join us in the 4 o'clock hour. Costco in about 15 on college football. You look at when a quarterback goes down and he's going to be out for a while, everyone, I mean, it is human instincts, right? We just human behavior. We say to ourselves, all right, let me start looking at the board here. Let me start looking at how these games are going to shake out for my team. Now, if you are New England, even though New England got the win to open up the season, but the Jets now, the Jets have an opportunity to right the ship early on in the season. The Jets can ill afford to go to 0-2. Now, they'll be on the road week 2 on Sunday against the Titans. That's a CBS spot, 1 o'clock. They're laying 3.5. But the AFC picture, if Tua is out, see, I don't think anyone early on competes with Kansas City. Now, for selfish reasons, you know my Super Bowl pick. My Super Bowl pick was Miami against San Francisco. So, and I'm back in the play on that one. I'm not going to pull out. I'm not going to renege on that. I got to stick with it. I got to stand by it. But the AFC, it's a little more different animal, if you will. Let me open up 727-858-6650. Gas Pump Guy with the text in. What's up, Q? It's a great analogy between boxing and football because boxing, that's all you're doing is getting hit in the head a lot. I like it. Good job. Yeah, I mean, listen, the rule is to not get hit, right? To move around. Vinny, faithful listener to the show. Devil's advocate. This is why the Dolphins shouldn't have paid him. Guaranteed 160-plus injury. That will kill long-term viability for the team. Well, let me address that for a moment before we pull up the B-boys. Let me address that for a moment. So I pulled up the numbers. And it happens, man. Look, the Giants. They give Daniel Jones $160, $40 million. The guy tears up his knee in Miami. Go figure. The Dolphins were paying him. This is what people This is low-bearing fruit, man. And I don't want to hear maybe Brian Flores or that's a jerk-off comment. That's a jackass comment. It is. Because I'm already seeing it on Facebook. Stop. Stop with that nonsense. Take it somewhere else. You're talking about a quarterback that led the league in passing yards. They won 11 games. They haven't won 11 games in almost 20 years. I think since 2008. And they're paying him for what he did and what they believe he can do. It's the NFL. It's the market price for quarterbacks right now. So yes, are they looking and they're saying, oh my God, this is not good? Well, again, if he's cleared to play but retires, he's walking away from 124. You cannot speculate on the timeline. You just can't. I know this. They're going to need a quarterback. They're going to need a quarterback. Look around the AFC right now. If you had Miami, and if you go and look at futures right now, I mean, this shows you how much this kid means to this team. The odds just have dropped dramatically. Dramatically. Do you know what they are right now? Take a wild guess what you think the odds are for the Miami Dolphins to win the Super Bowl and what they opened. Hell, what the AFC East odds, Miami was plus 2,000. That was to win a division. Do you know what they are right now? Plus 2,000 to win the Super Bowl. Plus 2,000. This kid goes down. 727-858-6650. All right, let's get back to the comments. 728-858-6650. The B-Boys. Could the Dolphins and Tua come to some sort of agreement for him to retire? Again, it's pretty much, well, let me address it in a minute. If is deferred money an option, Miami could celebrate Tua Day like the Mets celebrate Bonilla Day. I don't think they're going to do that. Bobby Bonilla is still getting paid, by the way, which is probably the most genius contract of all time. Typically not deferred. I got to pull up Spot Track, and I can do that right now while we have you guys. So this is how it would look, the breakdown. Because we talked about a little bit with Dak Prescott's contract, how you break it down. So his cap hit for 2024 is $9 million. 2024 cash is $43 million. And by the way, Tua's already earned $73 million. So if you put it in perspective right now, if you go back to that 4-year contract, $212 million, he got 42. Wow. Geez. Wow. 42 million signing bonus, 161 guaranteed, and it breaks down to 53 million. I mean, look, money's not going to be a problem, but you're also walking away from 120 something $1 million. So I don't see them. I think what Miami's thinking about right now is who we bringing in. You have to just continue. As horrible as it sounds, you just got to continue. Right? Next man up. Don't we always say that? Next man up. It's unfortunate. But that's the nature of the beast in the NFL. Nobody's going to sit there. Trent Green goes down in 1999 in preseason, and what happens? Dick Vermeil, who loves to cry, what does he do? What does he do? We are going to rally around Kurt Warner and play good football, right? Jerry in Rhode Island. It's Goodell is as insincere as he says he is about players' health. The NFL should get involved with Tua to protect him from himself if it's as bad as it looks. I appreciate that, Jared. Here's a couple things. It's a valid point you bring up, but let's flash back for a moment. If you guys watched the game or the highlights last night, again, folks, that wasn't a vicious hit. It just wasn't. It was not a vicious hit. So let's keep the NFL and let's keep the commish. And you guys know how I feel about the commish. Let's keep the commish to the side for a moment. It should be, and I want to give credit, one of the great linebackers. You know, Carl Banks, great linebacker, does play-by-play for the Giants. He tweeted this out, and I agree 100%. Coaches, it should be mandatory that all quarterbacks be taught how to slide in OTAs and minicamp. It is a football move. You teach mechanics. Every other part of the position, learning to slide should be taught. Too many quarterbacks lack this skill. What he is saying, again. So if you're going to sit there and say, I don't think it was the slide so much, it was fourth down. So you go back and you can dissect that play from the couch. Just slide, man. You're not picking up the first down. You're not. Learn to fight another day. And some of these quarterbacks, they're too reckless. Cam Newton, always leading with the head, got banged up. You know that rule, running backs can't lower their head, but quarterbacks can? It makes no sense. There's a contradiction and hypocrisy of the NFL right there. But these guys get paid because they're the face of the franchise. They're the face of the league. You buy the jersey. You watch for the quarterback. They're going to make bank. And they're going to be protected. Last night was a case where you can't really protect them. Damar Hamlin, and I know Michaels is getting killed for his comment last night with Damar Hamlin. He saying what everyone's thinking, so I don't have a problem with it. But Damar Hamlin basically makes a football textbook tackle. The quarterback's job, not to lower your head like that. Get down, slide. Get down and slide. Don't take a shot like that. Jones was doing it. Then he got the neck injury. You don't lead in with your head like that. That's nonsense. I don't care if you're 6'7", 6'6". I don't care. You don't do it. And I'm not blaming the kid. He's injury prone. There are just some quarterbacks that are injury prone. And maybe Tua is that guy. And everyone's going back to what Brian Flores said about Tua. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me with this nonsense, right? You have to. Yeah, you got to be. You got to be. Just stop. And I think what's going to happen now is that you will have more players, okay? And you will have people within the organization, the whispers, if they pull this kid to the side and say, hey, man, it might be time to do something else. It might be time to do something else. So we'll see if he decides it or not. But the AFC, the landscape of the AFC, it changes big time. It changes absolutely big time. When you go from those odds to now plus 2,000, books are telling you, Miami doesn't stand a chance in hell if this kid's out for a couple weeks, 3, 4, 5 weeks. And oh, by the way, if you look at Miami's schedule, they got Seattle, the Titans, the Pats. Can they win 2 out of 3 with that kid Thompson or a guy you're signing off the street? Maybe. But where Miami was banking on Tua being healthy was late in the season. Green Bay, the Jets, the Texans, the 49ers, the Browns, the Jets. There's your division right there. You would have found out where Miami was late in the season with those games. Week 2 is among us in the NFL. And I believe at this moment, there are teams in the NFL that can ill afford to lose this weekend. We don't want to say panic time, right? When we bring out the Duke, it's getting serious. We bring out the Duke, overinflated, underinflated. The Duke tells all. The Duke does not lie. But it's getting late early, and it's only freaking week 2. And it's absurd for me to actually say that, but I believe the Jets need to win. I also believe the Giants need to win, and I want to get into the Giants for a moment. They have to win against Washington because if they don't, their $160 million quarterback, who I also think at this moment is flat out broken. I think he's broken. I think this kid's confidence is absolutely shot to shit. I think he's seeing a ghost. I think he's very skittish. I think he's very tentative. I don't think he trusts himself. I don't think he trusts the coaching staff. I don't think the coaching staff trust him. Now, they're not going to come out and say that. But you can see, again, I got to go back to the boxing analogy. You see a guy who's getting banged up for a couple rounds, right? Because he's going against, say, like a tough Mexican fighter who's going to be a compact style and keep going to the body, digging. Round 1, 2, and 3, you're not huffing as much. You're not as slow to sit on the stool. 4, 5, and 6, the body shots, body shots are doing damage. They're slowing you down. They're making you rethink. 7, 8, 9, you got no confidence. Your body language reeks that you got nothing. You're shot. Your will's broken. That's where I see Daniel Jones. This kid's taken enough hits where he's so rattled and so skittish. He doesn't know. He doesn't know which way is up. And it shows on the field. But man, if they come out and they put up a clunker against Washington, who did not look like world beaters in a loss against Tampa Bay, a game that was not even competitive. Baker Mayfield looked like Joe Montana back there. If the Giants come out flat, all bets are off. All bets are off. When I say all bets are off, meaning the GM, the head coach, and the quarterback. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you at 0-2, 0-3, 1-4, you're making a head coaching change. That's not what I'm saying. But they better friggin' win on the road against Washington in a place where you go back years ago, different animal, 0-2 on the road, 2007. They got waxed by Dallas to start the season. They gave up 35 against Green Bay, and then they had the goal line stop, and that helped give them a little juice to get to 6-2, and ultimately they played the Pats tough in the regular season finale and ultimately saw them again in the playoffs and beat them in the Super Bowl. Like, they need something. You need a win. There are teams right now in the NFL, week 2 already, that need a win. Cleveland Browns. You don't think Sports Talk Radio in Cleveland are talking about Deshaun Watson? I mean, seriously, I'm not trying to make light of this, but what's worse? You give a concussion pro quarterback the type of money, even though I think he's a good quarterback in Tua. You give Deshaun Watson every single solitary guaranteed penny, or you give Daniel Jones $160 million, 40 on top of that for 17 games after you have one decent season. I mean, Deshaun Watson, that might go down as the worst move in the history of the NFL. Absolutely the history of the NFL. He flat out stinks. You got to go down on the road to Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's laying the home 3, and Jacksonville doesn't look like they're world beaters. I'm sure they're talking about Trevor Lawrence down there in Florida right now. Can he get the job done? Is Doug Peterson on the hot seat? Hey, man, teams have to win. It is week 2, but Cincinnati, you got to win. Giants, you got to win. Jets, you got to win. Cleveland, win. Get a win. I mean, that's where we're at right now. Think about that in the NFL. We're talking about a must-win in week 2. And then we'll save Monday Night Football, Atlanta and Philly, because I think Eagles are absolutely going to wax Atlanta. We'll do that on Monday's show. All right, 3:40. Quickie timeout, 727-858-6650. We'll open it up again on the other side. Some good stuff coming out on Facebook. We'll get to some of your comments as well, even though I don't agree with a lot of your comments, which is okay. Because we're not here to agree, right? We're not here to appease the masses. Is that what they say during debates? I'm not here to appease the masses. I mean, hide the cats and hide the dogs, whatever the hell they're talking about. We're not here to appease the masses. It's a very interesting saying. Let me read a couple Facebook comments. Bob Summers Point chiming in. Q, you're going to go fishing Sunday when your Giants are getting, quote, waxed 17-0 at the half. Good start, good opening monologue. I'm going to disagree with you. I definitely think it's time for Tua to retire. As you mentioned, you went through his contract and all the money that he's banked. Why go out there and risk it when you have family? You already had the fame. You have the fortune. Now walk away with your health. All right. I mean, that's 2 things. I'll check the weather forecast, by the way, for Sunday. Ooh, 76. 76 and sunny skies. So here's the scenario. If it's 17-3 and Jones is struggling and they got to, if Washington gets the ball come out of the half and the Giants have the ball with under 2.5 to go, down 14, and it's a 3 and out, maybe. It could be that day for fishing again. Who knows? Don't try to double reverse mush my Eagles. No one's mushing your eat. Relax. Do you know Kirk Cousins' record Monday Night Football? You had the head coach come out talking about Kirk Cousins' health, and you guys are thinking I'm trying to mush the friggin' Eagles. I give a shit if the Eagles win or lose. Stop it. That's nonsense. Guys, go back to your bunker. All right, 347-278-58-6650. I think we have Costco coming up on the other side. Talk a little college football. I know you guys got some picks and plays you want to share. Let's do it. Let's get it cranked up. Got to remind you again about my good friends Play It Again Sports. Labor Day is in the books, but check them out. 1450 Clements Bridge Road. They'll take all your new, used, and sports equipment. And more open 7 days a week, convenient hours. You don't need to even make an appointment. You can shop online, playitagainsports.com. Put it in the location. Defer. Quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll reset the table on this Friday edition of The Drive with Q right here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Call or text the show at 727-858-6650. Now, back to Q.
All right, I believe Lloyd's going to pop up. I mean, Lloyd's pretty good when it comes to Lloyd time. So I mean, am I wrong? Or am I wrong? 727-858-6650. Let me get back to your comments as well. Also on Facebook, see what you guys are saying. Kevin in North Jersey, Q, I think you're being overly critical of Daniel Jones. Keep going back to the offensive line. No Saquon Barkley. Now I'm hearing Neighbors is banged up. Ease up a little bit. This is a winnable game. At least give you something to smile about on a Sunday. Yeah, so a couple things. I know Neighbors is banged up. I don't want to hear any more about the friggin' offensive line. Just stop. I get so tired of these. Man, every team's got issues. Every team in the NFL has a hole that they need to plug up. I don't want to keep going back to an offensive line because the GM didn't know how to draft or they're not good talent evaluators. You know what? This is what really, when you give up on players too soon and they go to other teams and Will Hernandez, the Giants gave up on Will Hernandez. They gave up on Will Hernandez. Kid's playing lights out in Arizona. He's playing lights out. Like, it annoys the hell out of me. You're drafting these guys. You don't want any patience with them. Now, I get it. He was a second-round pick, 34th overall, I think, in 2018. But he's playing lights out. And he, again, has shown that if you coach these guys up, makes all the difference in the world. You got to coach these guys up, man. You look around the NFL right now, the teams that are struggling, Look at their coaching staffs. Look at the way they've been assembled. They're not impressive. They're not good. So when you've got an issue with your coaching staff and you've got an issue with your GM, they don't know how to roster build. I mean, folks, I got a bunch of coaching staffs in front of me. When you look at, the Raiders, for instance. The Raiders decided we're going to slap the interim tag off of Antonio Pierce. And they only did that because they beat Kansas City on Christmas Day. That was their coup de grace. That was their moment. They ran all over Kansas City. Everyone started to question Kansas City. And what happens? The Chiefs go on a run like they do. Assistant head coach, Marvin Lewis. All right, been around the block. Here you go. Then you look at offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy. Guys never heard of him. Wide receiver coach, Edgar Bennett. Okay, played with Green Bay. Played, I think, with the Patriots. O-line coach, James Gregg. You never heard of him unless you knew that he was with the 49ers. Quarterbacks coach, tight end coach. You never heard of these guys. They did not assemble a very strong roster. You know, I can go through these. The Giants coaching staff, I know everyone's still high on Brian Daboll, but Mike Kafka, again, he was a guy that I said to myself, he's not a good play caller. He's just not. He has no business being an offensive coordinator. He just doesn't. He's not bringing any creativity to the offense. And that's one of the reasons that, again, Brian Daboll has to take over the play calling. But look around, man. You don't think they miss Wink Martindale? You know, their secondary coach, Jerome Henderson, Shea Tierney, the quarterback coach, trying to work with who? Daniel Jones right now, whose confidence is shot? Drew Lock, Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito, slinging Tommy Two Guns. This is who we were dealing with. But this is the roster because of the coaching staff that these teams put together. So when you do that, you're going to have some really bad football. Really bad football. D on Facebook chiming in. Oh, well, how about this? In Miami, a diehard Dolphins fan. Q, I listened to your show over the last several weeks. I'm really enjoying it. You're extremely opinionated. You have some really strong takes, but I think you're way off the mark. It's definitely time for Tua to retire. It sounds like you're more concerned about the gambling line and the odds than Tua's health. I disagree with a lot of what you're saying, but I will agree with one thing. We should not be the ones to tell him to do it, but we can think and hope that he does. All right, two things. Little mixed bag right there, I think, Angel. Thank you for the compliment. And I don't care about the gambling line when it comes to somebody's health. I don't. I really don't. I can tell you one game, and this is, off the beaten path. I'll never talk from a gambling standpoint, Army, Navy, because it's just a different game. It's a different animal. So, and there's reasons behind that. All I'm telling you is that you have to factor in how these games are going to be looked at, the market. That's all I'm saying, D, how the market is. And my opinion is that we can have an opinion on Tua, but I don't believe we have the right to force someone to retire. I don't think if you thought, if your job, and I don't know, what's the analogy I can make here that you guys would get? And I'm sure you'll get it because you guys are smart and you catch on pretty fast with what we're doing here on the air. But like if you're at a job and say you're getting older, but you can still be very productive at your job, is it fair if the job's trying to push you out? Now, I know that happens in life. I understand that. But if you can still do your job and maybe you're not as quick on the phones or typing as you once were, and again, it's apples and oranges. But my point is, why should I force you and take away your passion? And maybe it's because I'm too close to the fight game that maybe I am biased in that regard because I see these guys up close and personal. I have very good relationships with fighters. I have very good relationships with former players and current players. I've been texting them left and right to get their insight and input on certain things, especially with this. And they're all telling me the same thing. It's just hard when you're making that type of money to walk away. I mean, here's another thing. And I guarantee you, if you haven't had an opportunity to talk to any high-level athlete, if you say to him, where would you rather get hit? In the knees or in the head? You ask them that question 100 times, and you know what they're going to say? 100 out of 100 times, the knee. Now, see, you weren't paying attention, Angel. They're going to say the head. They're not going to say the knee. They're going to see you. I caught you off guard on that. Hit them up top. Hit them. Don't hit them below. They don't hit them down below. You ask an athlete 100 out of 100 times, you want to get hit low or you want to get high, they're going to say, hit me high. Don't hit my knee. You're pointing down, and you were caught off guard.
No, I wasn't cut off. Because why would you want to get hit in the head?
Because you hit knee, you get your knee torn up.
That's all right. You got another one. See, even Dr. Lloyd laughed.
You know what? Punch up Lloyd right now, because this is utterly ridiculous. Now I gotta cram the segment in. All right, you played football. Would you rather get hit high or hit low?
I'd rather get hit low.
Oh, get the hell out! You want to get hit in your knee?
You asked a question. I'm going to tell you.
Oh shit!
As a former wrestler, they teach you how to use your hands to keep your opponent off of your legs. All right, I'm just saying. You get hit. I know people that have suffered from CTE and all that stuff. With those head injuries, there's not a lot you can do. You know,
no, you're a bad example to use.
No.
He doesn't agree with you, so he's like, dump him.
I'm telling you, every player I've ever spoken to, they rather get hit high than low. They don't want to get their knees taken out from them.
Yeah, you're probably correct. That's probably.
But I appreciate your transparency. Angel is just dicking around back there. He's pointing this, pointing that, not paying attention.
I am paying attention.
You got Tua stuff going on. Got Lloyd popping on 10 minutes late. You got your what jersey you're wearing, by the way?
That would be B-Doc, number 20. All right, to our Philadelphia Eagles. And by the way, yes, see, Dr. Lloyd even said that's the same way he or to get hit in the knees, which means now that Lloyd's show gets extended for another 5 years.
Listen, that's fine. Extend them all we want, but we already know it's a doctor to BS. All right, Tua last night. Everyone was on Buffalo last night. Dropped the BYP pod. The prop loved Buffalo last night. Loved them in the second half. They dominated. The question today is, all right, what do you do if you're Tua? And I've been talking about it. Guys have been commenting. You got a lot of money on the table, man, if he walks away, if he's medically cleared. I mean, I've been saying for the past 50 minutes, you can't tell somebody to retire. But I will ask you this, and trust me, I will not get on you like I just did in a loving, joking fashion. Do you think it would be in his best interest to retire and walk away?
You know, if he was my relative, I probably would have serious conversations with him about that. You know, given the fact that you watched the former hit in Cincinnati and the way he landed and they took him off on a stretcher and he came back too soon from that. And is what around Christmas, December 25th, they shut him down for the year. This time, you know, Hamlin, I don't think it was a tough hit or anything. He lowered his head. You know, he lowered his head. He got hit, and then he hit his head back on the turf. And you're right, Q. You know, these things are long term, and he needs to think about his future. And too often in the NFL, we've seen, you know, CTE and guys affected by this. And, you know, he's not married. I know he's discussed it a lot with his parents, with his brother, you know, about in terms of what he should do. But everybody I've talked to said that Tua probably will want to keep playing. So, you know, he's probably going to take a couple weeks off and probably go from there. But you're right. It's something he has to look at long term. But that contract does factor into it. That's a lot of money to leave on the table.
I said the same thing. If he's medically cleared and he walks away, he's walking away from $124 million. So Buffalo got the win. There are a couple of teams this week I think are going to come back down to reality. And I know I got you for about 10, 15, so let's kind of rip through these. You got the Saints on the road against Dallas. Dallas is laying 6. The Saints are not putting up 47 like they did against Carolina. Dallas has just been whitewashing people at home over the last several years. I think this is the week that the Saints come crashing down, even though it's week 2. I'm all over Dallas with the 6. I think they're going to put up at least 30, 35 points in this one.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you, and they are so tough at home. Dak loves playing in the confines of the dome, and CeeDee Lamb is now, they're going to be on the same page because they've had full time to practice with each other. And I think they're just going to drive that football down the field. As you said, the Saints had it very easy last week with Carolina. This is a different opponent. I know Dallas' secondary, sometimes they can be had at particular times in a game, but I think Dallas wins this one, and I do think they cover that 6.
Yeah, so that's, again, you got to battle 1-0. Look, the Jets 0-1, Titans 0-1. Something's got to give. I think the Jets need a win, and I know the Titans' defense is a little better. I would be hard-pressed to lay to 3.5 with the Jets on the road, but again, this is a game where San Francisco is a really good team. The Titans are not San Francisco. I don't think the Titans are going to be able to move the football. I mean, if they run and they have success, that's more of an indictment on the Jets. But I look at the Jets to put up some big numbers. This might be kind of one of those games where it's a, Aaron Rodgers, 3 touchdowns, vintage Rodgers, they win 28-10.
Yeah, and I think they're due for a bounce back because, as you said, this is a little lesser opponent. We saw Tennessee. Will Levis is not a good quarterback. He made some throws. You're like, what are you doing in that game? Particularly that pick 6 where he kind of lobbed it to the outside. And I think the Jets defense, you should give them more credit than they did. I know they had a tough time with Jordan Mason and stopping the run against the Niners, but the Niners are pretty high powered. That's a tough trip going out there, your first game of the season. I think Rodgers will be more comfortable in this one. And I do see them covering that 3.5. I'd go with the Jets in this one. And in terms of over-under, 41.5, I'm thinking they'll probably be under that mark. So I'm thinking they'll win the game, but I don't think it'll be a blowout.
Lloyd Vance joining us, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on Monday, 8 o'clock on Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. Also hangs out with us on The Drive, and of course, co-host with me on Backyard Play, our pod on Spotify and Amazon Music. Tampa and Detroit. Now, again, Detroit didn't cover the number with the overtime win against the Rams, but the Buccaneers look pretty good. Baker Mayfield looked really good. This has the makings of being one of these wild, kind of let it rip, high-scoring games. Detroit's laying 7.5 at home, and the total is 51.5. Now, I don't know if Tampa scores 37, then you're almost thinking to yourself, Detroit's going to score 40, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of points at 51.5. Now, this is a fun game because, it's a playoff rematch, and these two teams played very tough against each other. Baker Mayfield, I might have to apologize some more to him because he's looking very comfortable with Tampa Bay Bucks, and he's looking like he's really turned a corner, and they found their guy. So this should be a good game, entertaining one. I think Detroit's going to win it, but covering that 7.5 may be a lot to ask. So I think Detroit wins it, but it's probably on a field goal.
727-858-6650. That'll get you involved on Friday. Got a text from Mike Periglio. As a former athlete and coach, I agree with Q. You get hit in the head at least 3 times before serious repercussions. It only takes one shot at the knee to tear it up in shreds, in my humble opinion. And Mike's a avid listener, excellent high school coach up there in Ohio. Appreciate him chiming in for a couple moments. Everyone's going to have their thoughts on it. It's a bad situation, man, right? Because as you mentioned, they got to teach these quarterbacks how to slide. That's number one. They got to teach them how to slide. All right, let's keep it rolling for the next couple moments because I know we're up against it. We'll save the Eagles and the Falcons for last. All right, here's an interesting one, right? Stick with the Florida theme. Jacksonville at home, laying 3 against Cleveland. Both teams are 0-1. You talk about a quarterback that looks lost. I mean, look, there's question marks right now with Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson, and then you look at Deshaun Watson. More news with Deshaun Watson coming out. Everyone's starting to question Deshaun Watson, perhaps one of the worst moves in NFL history. This is a team that is desperate for a win. Now, if they don't get it this week and they don't get it next week against the Giants, then you're staring down the barrel of a pretty ugly season there in Cleveland.
Yeah, I definitely look at the under in this one. It's 41.5. And I just think the Browns are just lost in terms of the offense. Watson's just, I don't think he's a credible NFL quarterback at this stage in his career. And I think Jacksonville's going to be able to put a few points up on them. Yes, the Browns have a pretty good defense with Myles Garrett and some of those guys, but I think Jacksonville wins this one at home.
All right, Raiders and the Ravens. Again, the Ravens 0-1. They're laying 9 at home. The Raiders had some in-game issues with Antonio Pierce. I kind of went through their coaching staff. Baltimore played Kansas City well, but again, you're kind of punching out of your weight class to open up the season. This is a game with even the 9. I don't trust the Raiders offense, to be quite honest. I think it's sloppy. If you're the Ravens, this is kind of your get-right game, and I get it. You know, it's a tough matchup. 9's a lot. It's not juice to the over, but I'm going to lay the 9 with the Ravens at home.
Yeah, you know, some would say that's a dangerous play, but I think that they can do that because I don't think Gardner Minshew he's another quarterback that's kind of struggling. Their running game was where it needed to be last week, and now you have an angry Ravens team that they're going to play, and they're very good at home. So I expect Lamar Jackson to have a big game, Derrick Henry, and them to cover that number. So look for Ravens in that one.
All right, 2 more before we let you get out of here.
Sure.
Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, everyone's talking about the hand. Kansas City 1-0. The line has moved. I mean, it's been fluctuating 5, 5.5. Now it's sitting at 6. You want to catch it at 6. You want to steer clear of that 6.5. And if it's 7, you want it to go to 8 for teasing purposes. But I'm comfortable with Kansas City at home with the 6. I think this will be a game where Cincinnati's going to have to score at least 24. Kansas City could put up 24-30. I'll play the over at 48.5 as well. So give me Kansas City laying 6 at home.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Kansas City's going to win this one. They're so tough at home. And the thing is with Cincinnati, they just looked very bad last week. No T. Higgins probably again this week. That's a big factor for them. You can roll the coverage over to Jamar Chase. I think that Patrick Mahomes is going to be very comfortable in the pocket. They weren't getting much pass rush last week against the Patriots, and we know that the line for the Chiefs is better. I think Kansas City wins this one.
We'll do Eagles in Atlanta Monday, but last game, Chicago, Texans. I'm not sold on Williams. Obviously, special teams and the defense bailed him out in week 1. Then you got the Texans 1-0. A lot of people think there's going to be a backslide. They're at home, 6.5. They put up 29, I think it was. Indianapolis played them tough. Again, you know, Stroud, we know he's going to put up some monster numbers, kind of quiet pedestrian numbers to open it up. But you know, this is kind of the game where I think kind of reality sets in for Bears fans.
Yeah, Caleb Williams, he was lucky to get that win last week. We only 93 yards passing. Their defensive secondary is very good. So Stevenson and Owens, the rest of those guys, that's going to be a good test for C.J. Stroud. But he's got so many weapons. And Joe Mixon in particular is running the football downhill. So I think the Texans will do just enough to win this game, probably a field goal game. So I would probably say take the Bears and the points. But in a money line play, I'd say go with Texans.
Give me one upset special this week.
Upset special.
I'm staring right at it. It might be part of my Q's picks.
All right, I'll go with this one. Seattle's coming east. They're playing the New England Patriots. I know it's crazy to sound, but the Patriots can win ugly, and Seattle's not blowing anybody out. Geno Smith, I'm just not sold on him.
You're killing me. You're wrecking my futures bet with New England. I had the under for total wins. What are you doing?
Well, hey, send a mail over to Gerard Mayo. He's doing a good job with this team, and they believe. And Brissett's going to move the football. And Seattle, they're still having some difficulty running football. Walker has an abdomen injury, and the other back, he's not putting up big numbers. So I think that could be a potential upset there. New England likes to make these games ugly, and they're at home. So a home dog, I'd go with them.
He's got a BS in shit stirring. That, of course, is Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. I set him up with my comment, and what does he do? That might be the first time in 17-something odd years that you actually disagreed with me with the high and the low. And I still stand by it. Hit me high. Do not hit me low.
CTE, man, you got to protect the head. I'd say, you know what, get a knee replacement and all that.
Yeah,
you know,
I already got my.
It's a dangerous game, though. These guys got to take care of themselves out there.
All right, brother. Listen, as always, I appreciate you. Monday we'll do it again. Then we got BYP. Start to look at the week 3 lines already. Whew. I got to get off the mat 2 and 3 with the Q's picks. Not good. But I always appreciate a couple of moments. Catch Lloyd Monday at 8 on Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game with Lloyd Vance's Insider Football. Thank you, brother.
All right, Q. See you.
All right, quick timeout. Got to reset the table. Got to get the legal in. By the way, 4 o'clock straight up. This is Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game, part of the Coastal Sports Network, powered by Ion TV. The Drive with Q. Rich Quinones here. Angel Martinez behind the glass. I'll squeeze in some comments real quick, and then we'll take a timeout, and then we'll bring up Costco. We'll do the college games. Let's see what you guys are saying. 727-858-6650. 727-858-6650. Brandon chiming in. BH Texans 27-9. Sounds about right. And what is that? Lafayette? NFT? Tua? I don't know. I'm trying to read that correctly, Angel. It's a good comment. Tua, the face of the NFL concussion, and we sign a mega contract. Got to cut the guy and save him from himself. Not built for the NFL game. Well, you're not going to eat that kind of money. See, no one was saying that last year when they were winning their 10, 11 games and he's putting up the numbers. But I get it. You're looking at his history. All right. 727-858-6650. Quick timeout. Costco on the other side. We'll talk a little college football with our guy.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontp.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Call or text the show at 727-858-6650. Now, back to Q.
I love when I see the clock go down, the blinking light. Because it like reminds me of like the 80s movies when they have to disarm the bomb.
Are you panicking to have me on every week?
Hey, there he is. A couple minutes past the 4 o'clock hour. Hour number 2 of the drive. You know, it's always like 3, 2, 1, then the slow motion, right? You got Danny Glover sitting there on the toilet. This shit. By the way, before we bring in our guest, who you guys know, a very familiar face, I just saw that Andy Slater posted this real quick. Officer involved in the Tyreek Hill incident has been suspended multiple times in his career. Danny Torres, 27-year vet with Miami-Dade Police, total of 6 suspensions, with some lasting up to 20 days. All right, we'll get into that later on. Talk a little college football. Our guy from On3 Sports, play-by-play for RU Wrestling, Cal Live Sports, a booster of Colorado and Rutgers, and Nick Costco at Nick Costco 59. I was wondering, I saw that you were my text messages not going through last week when Nebraska was just romping? Now, yeah, you check your phone. I don't.
I mean, your text messages were showing up green on my end as recently as 2 days ago. So I don't know what you were doing.
You could have had airplane mode. Who knows?
No.
That's as embarrassing as a loss.
No, listen, I never said that. I mean, well, I actually should not start a sentence that says I never said that, because I actually did say this. I remember I was on one of your shows. It had to have been right before he took the job, or right.
It was on Back Your Play.
Yeah, so it wasn't right before he took the job. It was before the season started last year, and of course, through 3 games, I was proven right. And then that's why they had to play the last 9 games. I said he would win a Pac-12 title, but I could take a mulligan on that one because the Pac-12 no longer has Colorado, so I think I could be absolved of that take. No, I mean, Q, the Buffalo's biggest problem is the offensive line. Once again, the defense can't. The defense is Swiss cheese. Shiloh Sanders, who actually is a decent defensive back for them, and one of Deion's other sons. He's hurt. He has a forearm injury. He's out for a couple of weeks. And the offense is still one dimensional. It's Shedeur Sanders, it's Travis Hunter, and it's maybe you get 5 yards of a run game. It's the same problems as last year. Teams have keyed in on it now. The schedule, I would say, is probably not any easier. It's probably roughly the same, but just in a different conference. If they lose this weekend at Colorado State, I know that's not one of the 4 games we're highlighting because it's 2 unranked teams. And it's going to be you might as well have this game at the Red Rocks Amphitheater. At this point, this game is huge for Colorado just to quiet everybody down for another week, because they did that beating North Dakota State. They get blasted by Nebraska. It was non-competitive. It was 28-0, and all of a sudden, they get 10 points back in basically essentially garbage time, I would say. Shedeur Sanders got hurt. But again, this team's one-dimensional. It's Shedeur Sanders, it's Travis Hunter. That's pretty much it. The offensive line, despite getting a 5-star left tackle who was the number 1 guy in the class at that position, he's starting as a true freshman. He made mistakes. He can't do it himself as well. So, if they lose this weekend, this season's going to go into a tailspin pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, so you got the late game. Well, not the late game, but you get a little nice Friday night football appeal with Arizona, Kansas State, 20th ranked Arizona. They were just really poor last week, 0-10 on third down. They penalized all over the place. And then you got Kansas State 2-0. They're laying 7. It's a pretty high total on this one, 60.5. Again, non-conference. The matchups, new Big 12, as we just kind of joked. But here's a spot now where you look at this line. Arizona, if you can figure out a way to move the ball and convert on third down, I think they stay within striking distance. I'm not touching the total on this one. This is my look, but don't touch because of that 7. I'm just not comfortable with that 7.
With Kansas State being the home favorite, -7 here, it could move in either direction. But to me, Arizona is a decent play here if you're going to take a road dog. I like them. I mean, they're a touchdown dog. I get that, but they have Noah Fifita, if I can even pronounce his name right. He's a really good quarterback, and obviously everyone knows about Tatoria McMillan, their wide receiver. If you're not talking about Luther Burden of Missouri, this guy McMillan is one of, if not the best receiver in college football. They're electric. A lot of points can be scored in this one. Kansas State narrowly avoiding that upset last week against Tulane on the road. They're going to go as far as Avery Johnson takes them. Now, I have a big K-State guy on my staff, my good buddy Riley. He's an alum of the school, knows Kansas State in and out. I don't know him in and out, but from what I can gather through the first 2 weeks, Kansas State's own offense is limiting Avery Johnson, not letting him go full throttle throwing and running the football. But if you let them do that, this team can be very explosive. They're top 15 for a reason. They're a popular Big 12 championship pick for a reason. This team's been there before, and the Big 12 is kind of wide open this year. We don't know what Utah would have been my pick, but the injury once again to Cam Rising, the guy just 7th-year senior, the guy's getting banged up again. It's really unfortunate, and he really makes that team go. So Kansas State getting a ranked win at home right here would be big for their championship aspirations. But I do kind of like Arizona in this game just with those points. So I think I would actually lean the Wildcats here +7.
All right. Both teams put up points respectively. I mean,
They can.
obviously, yeah. Kansas State 41 against UT Martin, and then 34 against Tulane as well. So you like the road squad in that one. Here's a game that, again, it's because it's Alabama and because 2-0 Wisconsin is really not a legit. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't. No, go ahead.
It's really not a legit 2-0 Wisconsin if you think about it. And the line kind of dictates that. Alabama's laying 16.5 on the road. I mean, listen, you look at Wisconsin. If you go back, they've been home underdogs since 2005, 8 times. They're 6-2 ATS. But again, Alabama's a different animal. I just look at their defense as a whole. Man, I just think Wisconsin, this is a game where if they, and granted, Alabama puts up 40 against South Florida. They put up 60 something against Western Kentucky. That's fine. Okay. I just look at Wisconsin. Are you going to be able to muster any type of sustained drives, right? And if you watched them even last week, it's not like they were blowing out the doors of South Dakota, right? They pulled away in that game. I don't see this game being competitive. I think this game might be over at the half.
Yeah, it very well could be. Madison's one of those tough places to play, but I think that's not going to be enough for Wisconsin this weekend. Now, again, you know how much I hate taking these big road favorites. Alabama minus 16. I mean, I'm definitely going to lean that way and seeing Alabama to cover this game. You mentioned the Crimson Tide scoring 42 last week against South Florida. Now, they play some really weird games against South Florida. Everyone remembers last year, Jalen Milroe was benched there. Tyler Buckner was playing in that one. I believe maybe even Ty Simpson actually got into that game as well. And they barely beat the Bulls on the road. This one was very close. Don't forget, they scored 28 points in that fourth quarter. They scored 4 touchdowns around there. They really didn't have that offensive explosion until the fourth quarter. This was a tight game going into the final 15 minutes. So is that cause for concern for Alabama? Maybe, but I think they're going to rebound nicely this week. It's a matter of as long as the offense just keeps clicking with Jalen Milroe and with the way Kalen DeBoer calls it, they'll be fine. The defense, I think, is going to be just too much. And you just mentioned before how the Wisconsin offense really is not really getting going. South Dakota, they played Western Michigan the first week. Yeah, 28 and 27 points respectively. But this is an offense that if it gets into a shootout, which I don't anticipate a shootout, but this is not a team that is going to be able to keep up with Alabama explosively just because of the difference between Jalen Milroe at quarterback and Tyler Van Dyke at quarterback, who, again, another guy who I feel like has been in college forever. Luke Fickell wanted to recruit him in there. He's an upgraded quarterback from what they had, but again, they're not going to be able to keep up, in my mind, if it becomes a track meet. I don't think it's going to become a track meet, but as you said before, over by halftime, I'd probably lean that way as well. The total is still under 50. It's at 49.5 in most places that I see it, so it's tough for me to take the over because I don't trust Wisconsin to keep up. I would lean under in this one, but again, with that line so big right now, minus 16 in favor of Alabama, I probably wouldn't touch the total right now because all of a sudden you could see, a 35 to, 20 game, and then it hits that over. But I think if I'm going to be, a little ballsy here, I think I would take Alabama minus 16 on the road.
All right, gotcha. I know we got to do a condensed version. We got about 2 minutes because we just had to shuffle a little bit, and I apologize. Real quick, BC,
Absolutely.
Missouri, both teams come in 2-0. Who do you like?
I like Missouri in this one. Too explosive. Brady Cook, Luther Burden, that combination is going to heat back up. But I do like Boston College. Bill O'Brien really pushing all of the right buttons right now. I even wrote a story earlier this week that he wants them to be on par with the pro sports in Boston. Not so sure about that, but he does know the area. He's got that program humming, but I think Missouri's going to be a little bit too much for them on the road. So big line, though, so I'm inclined to actually take Boston College plus 14.5 here. That's a huge spread. We know we don't like huge spreads here, but I'll lean Boston College with the points, but I think Missouri does win this football game.
All right. I mean, I got to ask you before I get you out of here. Notre Dame, again, 1-1. Purdue, 1-0. Notre Dame's laying 8.5. You know what I feel about Notre Dame.
Oh, I know. I do have to lean Notre Dame here. I think Purdue is going to see some progress under Ryan Walters as the head coach. And again, they are hosting Notre Dame. They have the ability of home field advantage. I'm not sure how much that means in week 3, only their second game, and Notre Dame really needs a bounce-back victory after losing to Northern Illinois. I'm not confident in that offense until I see Riley Leonard fully healthy or really air it out down the field. He's not himself from a couple years ago where he actually had over 20 touchdowns at Duke. I'm not a big believer in their quarterback right now, but they're a stout football team. I would lean Notre Dame right here. And again, I hate taking road favorites, and they're over a touchdown favorite, but I would lean Notre Dame minus 8.5 in this one on the road.
All right, we're going to recap the picks on Monday's show. I know we're a little tight on time today, and I appreciate the flexibility. Real quick, high school football tonight.
Off this week. We will be back, though, next week when Mainland returns home. They're at Millville tonight, one of your favorite schools, Rich. And then they're going to be a big game tonight, by the way. Last two state champions. And then next week, we're back at home for Mainland. They'll be hosting Group 5 Power Cherokee. So another big game next Friday night on Cape Atlantic Live.
All right, brother. Always appreciate you, Cosco. Great stuff as always. Enjoy the football, and then we'll do it again next week. We'll recap our picks, and we'll start to look ahead to another weekend of college football. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, Rich. I appreciate you, my man.
All right. Thank you so much. I know we're a little tight. We're moving around a couple of things. We're trying to squeeze in another guest or two. 420-727-858-6650. Quick timeout. We'll reset the table. We'll take you up to 5-ish on this Friday edition of The Drive with Q.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontp.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And, with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have anybody to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Call or text the show at 727-858-6650. Now, back to Q.
All right, 422 on a Football Friday edition of The Drive with Q. Rich Communion is here, right here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Adrian Martinez behind the glass. And how about this? That man right there decides, I'm going to jump on for a couple moments. The two-time Super Bowl champ, former great running back in the New York Football Giants, number 27, a good friend of mine in the show, Brandon Jacobs. What's going on, B?
Oh, Rich, man, life is good, man. Life is lifing, allowing life to live. Just staying out the way, man. It's just about it, watching all of this fuckery going on out here.
All right, so let's get into it. And by the way, full disclosure. So Brandon and I, the audience wants 27 and Q back. So we were doing our pod, but we were just not always focusing on football. We talk a lot of boxing. We talk about life. We talk about what's going on. And let's start with the aforementioned fuckery, as you just mentioned. So let's, the Tyreek Hill situation, right? Because everyone's got their opinion on this. Everyone has their take on this. I know you've been down to Miami a lot of times. We know what kind of cars you drive. We know what kind of life you like to live, have fun, drive fast, but always safe. All that being said, you see a story like this. You played in the NFL for 10 plus years. This is a fraternity. We know what's transpired over the last several years. Does a story like that, do you kind of take a step back and shake your head and say, you know what, this is the norm. Does it upset you? Does it anger you? Or do you say to yourself, well, it could have been handled better on both sides?
That's what I say, Rich. I say it should have been handled better on both sides. For whatever reason, they pulled Tyreek Hill over. They felt like they needed to do that. I've been arguing with people over this matter. Everybody always say the police are bullies. They bully their way through this. They bully their way through that. They will always be that way. But you know when they're not going to be that way? When you don't give them anything to bully about. Right? You don't give them anything to bully about. Right, wrong, or indifferent. If you comply, yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Do what they're asking you to do, and if they still bully you, then you just can't find your way around being around a bad cop, right? Let's make it known that these guys are bad by complying and them still being dirty. I'd rather be in a situation like that where everybody, regardless of what they look like, white, black, green, purple, whatever they look like, I want everyone to be able to say in my situations with the cops, like the cops is 100% wrong. I don't want no one to say anything else because I'm not going to say, well, I don't want them to say, well, if Brandon would have did this, then that wouldn't have happened. In my situation, the cops is going to be the 100% on the cops because I'm going to keep my window down and I'm going to continue answering questions, regardless of whether the fact I gave you my ID and my license already. You still got a cop sitting there asking questions. You got window tint. You don't know what's going through these cops' mind. They could have a bad day. Yes, they were wrong for pulling him out.
100%.
They were wrong for handling him like they handled him. And there's no question about that. They were absolutely positively wrong about that. But if you keep your window down, I don't think none of that happens.
Okay, and I'm not surprised that you're saying that because we actually agree on something which is rare, you and I, right? Right? Because when we get to the NFL, we know who's cooked and who's not cooked, but that's besides the point. I agree. Like if you roll down that window, keep it down, right? When I hear people say, well, he didn't want all the, the photography and the videos and the phones, but then don't draw the attention to yourself is kind of my point. And you and I talk very raw. We're very honest. Do you believe in any type of way, shape, or form that he was racially profiled?
I don't believe he was racially profiled. I don't believe that. They pulled a guy over driving a McLaren.
You believe that the cop probably got pissed off that he kept mouthing off and wouldn't comply and then decided, you know what, the hell with this, we're taking you out of the car.
Right. I mean, I don't think it was racially profiled. There's a lot of cats down there in Miami driving McLarens, right? I'm not sure why they necessarily pulled him over because it looked like it had traffic out there. So I don't know if it was for speeding or whatever the case was. I don't know why they pulled him over.
But you made a good point too with the tinted windows.
Yeah, you got tinted windows. These guys got the cops are dirty. I mean, the cops are dirty. Whatever. I'm not saying that they're off the hook, right? But if I'm a cop, if I'm a cop and I'm standing here, I'm talking to you, and I'm actually not fucking pissed off, I can talk to you, and I can hear you out, right? I'm not mad. I'm asking you for your question. You don't have any seatbelt. Why don't you have any seatbelt? If Tyreek Hill is Brandon Jacobs, right? Why aren't you wearing your seatbelt, sir? You know you're supposed to have a seatbelt on. You see his animosity. If there's animosity already on his breath, right? Well, I took my seatbelt off, sir, to get my registration and insurance out of my glove box, or whatever it is, right? That's why my seatbelt is off. You de-escalate the situation by being as calm as possible. These guys, they're gonna be able to do whatever it is that they want to do. You know, yeah, tinted windows. I don't know if you're grabbing at a gun back there. I got a wife and 2 boys at home. You know, I have to get home to, and I don't want to be stuck here on the side of the road with bleeding out because you just decided to grab a pistol behind your tinted windows where I can't see. Just keep it down there. We're gonna be good.
Did you ever get pulled over when you were playing?
Yeah, I got pulled over plenty of times when.
Did you tell them you played? Did they recognize you?
Yeah, they recognized me.
Did you get a ticket?
Hell yeah, I got a ticket because she was an Eagles fan. The lady, she gave me a ticket. She gave me a ticket right off of off of Route 3. I'm driving from work actually. She pulled me over. East Rutherford Police pulled me over for illegal lane change. I didn't put my signal light on. She gave me a fucking ticket. And I'm like, okay, I was driving a Bentley at the time. Cool. I didn't put my signal light on. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You know, go on with the rest of your Friday. I hope you have a good weekend. I got my ticket and I fucking got him. I started my car and I drove on by my business.
That's crazy. I look at it like this. No matter what, it's when everyone's. I would have remedied this situation, and if I'm an NFL player, I'm going to use my platform. I'm going to live to fight another day. Take the ticket, smile, go ball out, in which he did, and then use the platform.
Talk shit.
But see, here's my issue. When all I hear is we have to have the dialogue. What does that do? Like, yeah, seriously, after a while, it's just this. After a while, that's it.
It doesn't do anything. A lot of these cops, most times, they look like cops' lives are boring in most places, Rich. They're absolutely boring. Like if you go in some of these places, like where I live over here in Alpharetta, Georgia, they're fucking bored out of their minds. No one's speeding. There's nothing going on. No one's carrying guns. There's not a whole bunch going on. They just sit in their cars.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
do shit. They're looking for some type of action in most cases. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give a cop any reason
Fair point.
to manhandle me. I'm just not.
No,
Call
you're
me a
right, because listen, God forbid, what if he took a swing at the cop, or the cop threw him down and all of a sudden, boom, he tears up his knee, right? I mean, you have to think, you got to be pragmatic in that situation. Now, I don't know if you saw the game last night, but now it's, the talking heads, everyone's out there. Tua's got to retire. He's got to retire. So my thing is, he's got 124 million reasons why he's most likely not going to retire. Look, you played a violent position. So first of all, I know you told me this a couple times, so forgive me for repeating myself. How many times do you think you suffered a concussion in college and the NFL?
Shit, every other week. Every other week. Get up, get back in the huddle, hit a play. If you can understand the next play call, you all right.
Because you got your bell rung, right? You got your bell rung.
Line up and get ready to go. I told you, played against the Jets once, met Bart Scott in the hole, rung my bell. Got up, dazed. By the time the play came in the game, to Eli's mouth, to us in the huddle, I was normal. I ran the ball the very next play.
Was that the preseason game? Was that a preseason game?
I was for a week. They didn't do none of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know, man. But you know what, Rich? For me, we're dealing with problems with these quarterbacks all over the league. I am so fucking sick and tired of these quarterbacks with all of this money, and they're not doing anything with the money. Because you need a team around them for them to even be relevant, right? So Tua got all of these different $1 million. He's getting 20-something plus $1 million or 30-something plus $1 million a year.
More. Yeah.
Right. Daniel Jones is getting almost $40 million a year. Aaron Rodgers is getting how many million a year? Right. I'm so sick and tired of these people putting a worth on these quarterbacks, and it's just not worth it. Give me what San Francisco has going on with Brock Purdy. Yes, it took an injury for that guy to get on the field and show he can play, right? I'm gonna draft the guy in the fucking 5th round and let him play. There's no money in him and there's no money out of him.
Right. Low risk to reward. Low risk to reward. Low risk to high.
If he pans out, if he pans out, I'm the GM that look like a genius. If he don't, guess what? We got him in the 5th round. I can fucking get rid of him and give me another.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about the contract. You're on a rookie contract. So, but now let me ask you something though. I get annoyed when everyone's sitting there saying, "Well, he's got to retire too. He's got to retire." I mean, again,
he's not.
You played the most violent position in the NFL because you're smashing heads constantly. You get your bell rung. Someone pulls up to you and says, "Yo, B, I think it's time to retire." You're talking about playing on a franchise like the Giants, right? Making millions of dollars, winning a couple of Super Bowls, understanding I can elongate my career a little bit, help my pension, help my retirement, try to get another contract. I look at that from the player standpoint. Obviously, I never played in the NFL, but that's why I kind of defer to you on this. I don't know. Can you tell a teammate like Tua time to retire, man?
Hell no, you can't tell him to retire. He got goals. He got goals and he got financial gains that he need to reach. His numbers he need to reach for his own good, for his own legacy. You can't just tell him to retire. You understand, hey, Tua, you might need to retire, but I understand if you don't, I'm going to support you either way. But you can't just go tell him to retire. You just can't. The Dolphins can't tell him that. Nobody can tell him that. It's just he gotta figure that out all on his own, and he got to make that decision with him and his family.
All right, now this is the hard-hitting question, right? Because sometimes I like to hit you with the body shots. By the way, we're going to talk a little boxing soon, but I can't do it this year. I can't commit to 17 fucking weeks. of that.
40. There's 40 plus fucking $1 million says that you.
I can't. Brandon, you're my guy. 2 Super Bowls. You're my guy.
Understand.
And I know it. I know this rankles you because you bleed blue, and the last thing you want is my fast talking mouth to say this. They're so bad, and that roster was poorly constructed. And now you give this quarterback who had one good run where you predicted they would make the playoffs, and he played very well with Saquon, and the defense made plays. He gets hurt. You've invested $160 million in this kid, and I started the show saying this. He reminds me of a shot fighter. He's got zero confidence. Now, I'm not going to blame the offensive line, but I'm going to say this. I can't trust. I don't think the coaching staff trusts this kid anymore. I think Daniel Jones is broken.
Well, I'm going to give you my opinion on Daniel. I think Daniel Jones has been a product of, I think what we're dealing with now is a guy that's a product of a bad offensive line for the last few years. And I actually believe on the snap of the ball, his eyes don't ever go downfield. I think they go right. I think his eyes go right to the line of scrimmage to see who's being beat. And he's missing open guys, which causes him to now have to be flushed out of the pocket. Holding on to the football too long.
Not reading, going through his progressions.
Not going through his progression because he's worried about being set, right? And I think that in most cases he actually has some decent weapons around him. His line is actually blocking pretty good. I sat at that game last Sunday, and I was behind the offense to some cases, and I saw some open guys, right? But Daniel never saw them because he's worried about who's going to get beat. You got a guy playing that right tackle who came into the season not knowing he was going to end up being the guy starting. Supposed to be Evan Neal. You got Andrew Thomas, who always does pretty well. The line to me this past Sunday blocked pretty well. We can no longer blame that. We got weapons on the outside. So I just think Daniel Jones is going to have to turn over a new leaf on his own and realize he really got an opportunity of a lifetime in front of him that a lot of guys don't have. So I think I honestly believe this week I think he's going to be much better than he was last week. I'm going to go with that. And I keep and I get on Twitter and I talk about stuff. People think I'm supporting bad play. I'm not supporting bad play. I'm only saying this. Daniel Jones is our quarterback for the 2024 season. And if we keep dogging him the way we're dogging him, he's mentally never going to get better. So if we want any kind of success out of this guy, I suggest we all support him and encourage him on that he can do better. That's my only thing I'm saying. I'm not saying he's going out there throwing dots and being the best quarterback in the league. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the guy's going to need he's going to need a lot of support to come out of this mental fuck he's in.
I like Daniel Jones. I think he's a good quarterback. He's got talent and athleticism, but he's such an enigma and he's frustrating. And I think the kid is just skittish. And I equated it back to, and I know it's apples and oranges, 2007. And you hate when I use this term, but you guys got waxed against you got Dallas and Green Bay. You go down to DC, 4th down stop, you finally get a win, right? Daniel Jones has played well against Washington. I just look at this kid, and if the coaching staff doesn't believe in him, and I know Hard Knocks only want you to see what they want to see, then how do the teammates believe in him? Like, I'm not saying this is an Eli Manning situation. I'm not. But when Eli threw all those picks against Minnesota, I think he threw another one that was returned for an interception. They were getting ready to run all you guys out of town.
Everybody was gone. Is this what it is? But we supported Eli in that, though. We supported, but that was the media. We didn't hear all that. Well, we didn't have social media quite like we have it now. So that's one of the issues that why we can't really compare at times. We didn't really have a whole bunch of social media stuff going back then where you were able to communicate with the fans as much as we are now. So just like we know that the Giants could be in trouble if Daniel Jones doesn't get his act together. I don't mean to get off subject, but the fucking Cleveland Browns is an absolute.
Thank you. Are you kidding me? What are we doing here? All that money, it looks like he's gotten too many massages. His legs aren't even heavy, man. He can't even run. I'm telling you right now. What is he doing over there? Are you kidding me?
I think that's the worst deal signed. I think that's the worst deal offered to any player in sports history. Not only football, I'm talking about sports history. The
You
guy,
think he just doesn't care, or he's done? You think
he
he's
doesn't
just
care. You got how much they gave him, Rich? They gave him what, two,
the
250?
contract? The contract is absolutely the
Fully
contract.
guaranteed. You got to be shitting me. I wouldn't give a flying motherfucker either if I don't give a shit what happens. Okay, you don't have to help me up. You know, I'm trying to help you up, and I'm your teammate, and you jerk your hand away from me.
Listen. For
Get your
200,
ass down there. You broke
listen
it.
for
You know?
230 million guaranteed. You're going to Olay that block. You're not going to chip. You're just going to.
What? Like the Cleveland Browns are the clowns. They're the bozos of the NFL right now.
It's no longer Jacksonville. We got a lot of Florida
It's
guys
no
that
longer
listen in.
Jacksonville, baby. I got to give Jacksonville credit. They've done very well on their roster. They've done very well paying people. They just gave Trevor Lawrence. Does he deserve as much as he's gotten lately? I don't know. He hasn't done the whole lot but win some regular season games here. Let's be honest, but he got some money for it. But the shit that the Cleveland Browns have done with Deshaun Watson is absolute positively fuckery.
But you still have to go out and play. Like, you can be a running back, a wide receiver, a lineman, a tackle, and you can see this guy clearly has given up, but it's still on film for you, right? You have to go out and still ball. And I don't know, has there ever been a time, whether it's college or your pro career, where you just looked around, you're like, I can't ride with this guy. I can't get behind him.
No, I've never had that in me as a player. I've always supported my guys. Eli wasn't the best all the time. I wasn't the best all the time, right? We had guys around us that we needed and that we needed to depend on that wasn't the best all the time, but with some support and love, you know, anybody can come out of anything, man. And that's all I keep saying, except Cleveland. They can't come out of that shit.
Well, you also had the right coach. Who's best team in college?
The best team in college football right now, I gotta say Georgia. I think Georgia's the best team in college football. Do they have the best quarterback in football, in college football? I don't know, but people saying that the Giants is going to draft him. I don't know, but
do you even like that talk? By the way, I mean, I know you got rankled. I know you're on the fan with those clowns, and I know Tiki's your guy and your former teammate and all this other shit. But come on, man, we're talking 2 games in and already tanked the season. My argument is, if they lose 4 or 5. They're going to bench him because they have a clause in the contract, an injury settlement, and that's the smart business thing to do. If they're 1-5, they're probably going to bench him. If he struggles against Washington, he might get benched. But I'm not going to sit here and say go out and just play horrible football for the sake of playing horrible football.
Listen, at this point with the Giants, we've missed on this draft pick, right? Why not go out and get a guy that you don't owe a whole lot of money to, that you ain't putting a whole lot on? That's what I would do with these quarterbacks. It's not that San Francisco wanted to do that because they gave Jimmy G a bunch of fucking bread.
They did.
He got hurt. They gave him a bunch of bread, right?
Yeah.
So you went through 1 quarterback, you went through 2, and then you got Purdy as your backup, who was Mr. Irrelevant, who comes in and just light the whole place up. I think a lot of quarterbacks that get drafted in the 5th, 6th, 7th round in the draft, they come into a situation with an established starter and they lose confidence throughout the way. I'm going to be a backup the rest of my career because I got drafted behind Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is a starting quarterback here. So I'm going to be over here for 3 or 4 years before I can get an opportunity. And they lose it. They mentally lose it, right? I'm going to give me a 5th round draft pick and I'm going to say, guess what? You're going to fucking be my starter day 1. Get your shit together and let's go. And pay him his rookie minimum, whatever that is. And if it doesn't work out, then guess what? I'm going to try the shit again. You ain't missing nothing.
Yeah. Which
Stop
means
paying these quarterbacks all this money.
Which means maybe more running backs will be drafted in the top 10.
No, I'm not saying that, Rich. I'm not saying that. Even though the running backs, you ask me, are the most athletic guys on the football field. They do everything, and I'm gonna stand on that, right? But we have we do get injured. We do get hit every play. So I kind of get where they're going at, like with the whole running back thing. But I'm gonna stay behind my salary cap as much as possible and not be in a hole with a guy as much as a lot of these teams are, like the Cleveland Browns, like the New York Jets. You know, and I keep saying that. I kept saying this last year. Aaron Rodgers did look a hell of a lot better than Wilson did, you know, in his last game, but I really don't think he has much left in him. But they're paying him
I
how much
agree.
a year? He's getting paid what, $40 million a year, $30
They
million?
they put all their eggs in one basket, and if that blows up, if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt again or they miss the playoffs, you have to get rid of that head coach. And they didn't want to get rid of Hackett because Hackett, and you're right, he signed a 3-year, $112 million contract with the Jets, $75 million guaranteed, annual salary of $37 million. 37 million. But you know this, the quarterback, face of the franchise, touches the ball, you know, the most. Jerry chimes in. This is why the stream station is great, great host and guest talking like people actually talk. Well, I mean, this is what we do. We talk. There's really no filter to what we do, right? I mean, it's just, you got to be honest. You have to have a genuine opinion. I think everyone's kind of sugarcoating and everyone's in this kind of a political correct kind of state where they're afraid to say something.
Yeah.
All right,
Dude,
listen.
I'm not a quarterback hater by any stretch of imagination, but I'm so tired of seeing these quarterbacks get all of this fucking money. Tour.
But they touch the ball the most. You know that.
They touch the ball the most, but they're giving it to everybody else.
Well,
they
listen.
touch the ball every play, but the ball. The play barely ever ends in the quarterback. The whistle barely ever ends.
I know what you're saying. But you know this. But how are you building the team, right? Inside out or outside in? If
I'm building a team. I'm starting in the trenches with my offensive lineman and my defensive lineman are going to be my highest paid guys on this football team.
Okay, then how come the Giants have absolutely no clue? This is not 2011 with your offensive line. Give me those guys. Yeah. Give me Snead, give me Cyber, give me Deal, give me O'Hara, give me those guys. The Giants offensive line, they haven't been able. Then explain to me who the hell is looking at these guys in college? How come they keep missing every single solitary season on friggin' tackles, on guards, on centers, on linemen?
Dick, it's a crapshoot. That's what it is. It's a crapshoot. None of these guys, okay, number one, they're coming from college playing. You know, they're playing against some guy that was 18, 19 years old that happened to be good to play as a freshman, and he dominated them, right? It's a little boy's game. You got a different team around you. You got different coaches around you. You got a different offense, different terminology. Everything is different. I'm so tired of teams in the NFL thinking that they can go get a guy from one other team and bring him to their team with different plays and different offense, and all of this shit is going to work the same. Guess the fuck what? It's not. Learn from fucking Kenny Galladay, for crying out loud. Come on.
Hold on a second. Galladay had a big block in that playoff game.
Rich, come on, man.
That contract still bothers you to this
It does, because it set us back. This is why we're where we are.
Well, I also think they tried to. I think they tried to squeeze a couple years. I think they tried to squeeze a couple more. Don't get upset. I think they tried to squeeze a couple more years also out of Eli. They thought they can keep running it back, right? I know when you wipe your head like that, you get annoyed with me. That is your poker tell. I know for a fact when you start doing that, you're getting annoyed with me and you don't agree. Listen, two things, by the way. How about your guy? How about Russell Wilson? He cooked. Done. Share with the audience, if you will, the story you shared with me when I asked you about Russell Wilson, his time in Seattle. And if you're a player, you want to be able to contact your quarterback, correct?
Yeah. So I got a friend of mine that played in Seattle. Lives down here in Atlanta with me, actually. We were talking about Russell Wilson. It was like 4 or 5 different guys, not just one, by the way. And they said to me, they asked me how was Eli. I'm like, Eli's great, man. Eli's one hell of a guy to play for. One hell of a guy to rally behind. It was like, man. Now Russell Wilson, I'm like, what do you mean? He said, this guy got an assistant. We're not even able to talk to him. We can't pick up the phone and call him without talking to us. It's like, I got to fucking wait on hold to talk to this guy. And I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to go to battle with a guy who sends me to an assistant because he can't talk to me. Well, you got to be fucking kidding me. There's no way. And I heard this once and I'm like, that's not true. Now, I talked to someone else about it in Las Vegas. We were out at a pool party. We were talking about the same thing, right? Talked to somebody else in New York about it for one of the drafts it was like a while ago. And I'm like, what? Are you guys serious? An assistant? You got to reach out to somebody else to get to him, and he's sitting directly right next to me. I got to go out and block for this guy. Got to catch his pass. I got to do this for this guy. And he doesn't even respect me enough as a man and his teammate to even communicate with me without having to go to somebody else. That comes directly from the mouth of former teammates of
Russell Wilson.
Wilson.
Wow.
Like, and I still right now I'm struggling believing it, but I don't know. I wasn't in there with them. They were there. I wasn't.
Remember, Sean Payton made the comment about the parking space when he took over the job in Denver. And, Russell Wilson now, I mean, listen, that guy's playing for his career. I mean, Justin Fields, because he's healthy, even if they lose ugly, Tomlin's going to keep going to Justin Fields. I mean, that's just how it is. Hey, listen.
And how much money is Russell Wilson making this year?
I'll pull up the contract. I think it's a 1-year deal. I think he's on a 1-year prove-it deal, to be quite honest. But, I mean, you're probably still going to bulk at the contract.
And how much? Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. A 1-year.
Well, the deal with Denver was 5 at $242, and with the Steelers, it is league minimum 1.21.
Good.
He said good.
Good, because they're not losing anything with him.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I played, and I salute all of these guys for being able to go lay it on the line, right? I salute all of these guys, man, but there's no way. I'm just so sick and tired of these quarterbacks making all this money and fucking up all of these rosters because they can't pay anybody else. To me, I don't understand it, man. I just don't. What's going on?
How about your guy Harbaugh with the Chargers?
He got a job over with the Chargers. I mean, me and him have our differences. Well, I don't know if we have any differences anymore, but he got them going. They want to know. They beat the Raiders last year. Yeah. Everybody seems to rally around him. I mean, he got a really good quarterback there. Let's see what happens.
I got to ask you before I let you get out of here, because for the listening audience, Brandon is in the fight game. Promotes, managed guys, big time boxing fan. That's why we always talk some boxing. Is Canelo going to
annihilate him? He's going to beat the shit out of him. He's going to beat the shit out of him. I don't see it being a close fight. I like Berlanga, but Berlanga hadn't been in the match. He hadn't been in the ring with no one with real star.
He hasn't stopped anyone in a while, man. He hasn't stopped anyone in a while. I think 6 fights, and the odds are ridiculous, by the way. I think he's plus.
And how we started, Rich. He started out knocking the first 10 people, the first 11 people out?
16-0.
16-0, and he was stopping everybody in the first round or something like that, right? That hurts you when you get to these type of fights with guys like Canelo.
Yeah.
It hurts you. You need ring minutes with guys like this because you ain't going to knock them out in the first round. Yeah, it's possible. But I ain't never seen Canelo been down in a long time. So guess what? I don't think Berlanga was going to be the one to get him down. I don't think he's been in the ring with too many tough opponents to be able to come through just what he's about to deal with.
The odds, Jerry wants to know, you think Belichick goes to New York? I'm going to assume not the Jets, but maybe the Giants if they fire Brian Daboll. Can you see that scenario?
I can see that scenario, but I don't think they'll fire Coach Daboll. I really don't think. I really don't think so. He seemed like a guy who was really liked there. I don't see them firing him because I think people think that we're supposed to know our problem. I like our team. I like the way they respond to Coach Daboll. I really do. Again, Rich, we talking about week fucking 1, man. Like, it's week 1. Like, we all panicking. It's week 1. Yes, the quarterback played like fucking dog shit. He did. And I've never really said that about him, like before.
You've never really been critical of Daniel Jones. You haven't.
And I'm not going to be critical of him now. It's a game of inches, man. And the guy just didn't play good last week. And I'm looking for a different Daniel Jones to come out and play this week.
Yeah, it wouldn't be me if I didn't aggravate you before I let you get out of here. I have to ask you about your guy, Deion Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you are a prime guy. You love Deion Sanders. Is it time we kind of admit that he is a lot of sauce but no sizzle? Like I believe Deion. Hold on, I see you back up. don't listen. I've been in there. Listen, I've been in there too. I've been in there. I saw you back
All
up.
right. You're good. Okay. Deion Sanders was a great player.
Great player. But is it possible it's always just Deion and his son, right? And I don't care about the rest of the university and these players. I feel as though it's always him. And last year they had a little shine early and then they faltered late and they got waxed and humbled last week against Nebraska. I guess is the act wearing thin. Do you believe Deion will still coach Colorado next year? Or do you think a team like Florida State, Miami?
Deion ain't coaching. I don't think Deion will coach football at all next year. He ain't going to know where he's going to go, right back to the NFL Network. And I love Deion. I love Deion as a coach. I love him as a motivator. I love him as a player developer, as a
You
man.
think he's done after this year?
Yeah, I don't think he comes back. I really don't believe so. And again, it's not because I just think it's too much bullshit in recruiting. It's too much bullshit goes on in recruiting for him that he's not used to. Even though he used the portal, even though he don't have any problem paying NIL, all of that. I just think it's going to be too much for him and not enough into it to come out of it with his kids gone. Right? Again, I love Prime. Like, don't get me wrong. I really do. I love Prime. And all we see is him talking about Shador and Shiloh and all of this stuff going on because that's all the media show us. We've never been in the back door in that locker room or in that facility to really see him coaching and loving on other guys. Really, no. I do. I think the transfer portal is the problem that we're dealing with Deion Sanders because think about it. Who goes in the transfer portal? Some fucking guy that can't play where he was. Why am I
transferring?
Why I'm gonna bring him here to try to protect my son? I'm gonna bring you here to protect my son when you couldn't play where you was. You just a good-looking kid, and that's what I keep trying to tell my own fucking son. I'm like, dude, you're 6'8", you're 330. You better fucking start destroying people out here. That's what you better start doing. Because sometimes size isn't going to get it. You look all over college. If you go look at Colorado's roster right now, you got a lot of 6'6", 6'7", 330, 340 guys on there with a quarterback that lives on his ass practically. Right? So that's what I'm trying to tell him and make him understand. Like, you better start killing people. You better start doing it. But I respect Deion as a player. I respect Deion as a coach. I think he's a great developer in men. I do. But I do think that he should recruit high school football players a little bit more to develop versus getting guys from other schools where they wasn't even playing. They wasn't playing at these schools where they come to your team and now they're starting. Yeah. Outside of Jordan Seaton on that team, I don't know where those other four guys come from, right? I want Colorado to do well. I do. I want Shador to do well. I want Deion to do well because I'm a fan of his game as a player and I'm a fan of his character and the way he is as a man and a coach. Right, so I want them to do well, but I think getting players at the transfer portal is the wrong move.
Yeah. What do you got, Angel?
So, quick question, Brandon, because Q brought it up in the beginning part of the show, and he said, "quote that either you rather get hit in the knees or you rather get hit in the head." So, I'm asking you, as a former running back, would you rather get hit in the knees or rather get hit in the head?
Hit me in the head because I know what it's like to get hit in the knees already, and that shit keeps you out 2 weeks. That shit keeps you out. Hit me in the head because I've been hitting the head plenty throughout my life. Got my ass up off the ground and got back in the huddle and ran the next play.
Yeah, I was getting hammered for saying it. And I was literally like, I was waiting for you to come on. I was like, I'm telling you right now, you ask any football player, they want to get hit up top. They don't want to get hit.
Yeah, but your brain affects you later on in life, but your legs keep you from getting paid.
Great point. Great point.
Hey,
so I'd rather lay there and die of CTE, and my kids are taken care of.
I mean, you can't really. There's no back and forth on that. That's your opinion. You played the NFL. That's how you feel. I can't take that away from you. And I remember you told me that the kid you hit in college, I think you were a gunner.
No, I was a number 5 on the wedge, and he came there in the wedge. I was a wedge buster. He came there and he dropped his head, and I promised I tried to knock his head off of his neck. I really did, and the guy never moved, and I was so scared. I was like, "Holy shit, I killed him!" Like he's not moving. I was so scared, but at the same time, I was so angry because I was at Auburn. I wasn't playing, and I feel like I should have been playing, but I was so angry, so I didn't really care that much. like right when the hit happened. But when I went to the sideline and the defense was taking the field, and to know that they were still out there working on him. 10 minutes into it, they take his face mask off. They cut his jersey off 20 minutes into it. It was like a 45-minute pause of the game. I was so fucking scared, man. I thought he was dead.
Wow. Man, that's all right. We gotta end that on a light note. What's up with your boy Shannon Sharp leaving the phone on? What did you?
So Shannon Sharp, he had so many allegations of people screenshotting him in weird positions, right? These pictures came out. They see him weird positions. Men wear skinny jeans today, skinny sweatpants, because I do too. So he got out this car with this dog, I guess, in his hand or whatever it was, and somebody screenshotted it and make it like, oh man, Unc looks sweet here. So I think it was more of a situation of where he wanted to try to prove to people that he was.
Oh, you started doing a little divert tactic.
Yeah,
having a little cookie on camera. Okay, all right.
You got to go through so much to go live on Instagram.
That's what I did.
You don't just roll over on the button.
That's what
It's not like me accidentally dialing you guys by accident if I'm driving or something.
I never once thought. I always been a fan of Shannon Sharp when he played. I'm a fan of Shannon Sharp's podcast, and just anytime Shannon is talking, I listen because he's always saying some stuff that's either funny or wow, like I didn't think of that. You know, I got a lot of respect for him, but I truly believe that now this is me making my assumption on it. This is not necessarily saying this, but I think he wanted to prove to people.
Really?
Yo, guess what? I am an alpha male, and I do get some pussy. So Michelle is first. Come on, Michelle. Come get it. You know. You say you know what type of money. Come on. Hey,
I saw. Yeah, I don't need that. I saw Michelle Beadle had to come out and tweet. Not me. Not me.
Tear that ass up, Shannon.
I guess the sanctity of the locker room, right? You're getting your balls broke like that. You got to go out there and you got to remind people that that's funny, man.
Shannon Sharp, man. Hey, what's this fucking jersey and hat you wearing back there, man? Hey, let me find out you a piece of shit.
Listen, I'm born and raised in Philly, all right? So a diehard Eagles fan, which I was just about to say, which one is the biggest rivalry in the NFC East? You guys and Dallas, or you guys against the Eagles?
I think everybody game against Dallas is the biggest game, but I mean Philly gonna be something. We call that more of a rival because it's 2 hour and a half, 2 hours away, right there down the turnpike. So I will go there. But the team I actually love to beat up on the most is Cowboys.
Yeah, Dallas.
See, all right.
He's a Philly guy. What? By the way, what does your shirt say, Brandon? There you go. See that? Go. Now, hold on a second. Now we got to get a guns check. Oh
yeah, you know these fuckers are still here, baby.
And I know because the holidays are right around the corner. Hopefully, Santa's going to be good to you this year, because we know you were disappointed that you didn't get what you wanted last Christmas.
Yeah, I wanted that 50 cal, man. But then we get it this year. Desert Eagle.
Good? You're gonna not crawl under the stocking?
That's what I want. I'm gonna stick with it until my wife gets it for me.
Hey, plug the pod you guys are doing. Still doing that?
Hey, we got Facts Over Feelings. It's me and one of my buddies I grew up with one of his college teammates. Facts Over Feelings. We just get on there and talk about a lot of pop culture, sports, all kinds of different shit. It's funny. We have a good time on there. So if anybody go subscribe on our YouTube, Facts Over Feelings. Facts Over Feelings show, to call it. So go subscribe, and I mean, I promise we're gonna have you laughing.
You're gonna come back on, right?
I'm definitely gonna come back on. Absolutely.
All right, brother. Hey, by the way, congratulations, top 100 Giants of all time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Rich, what's your thought on the top 100? Where you think who should have been put where?
Well,
you've been a fan of the Giants for years. I don't want to be the one to speak on this stuff. I don't like to speak on this stuff because I'm thankful and fortunate enough to have been on the list anywhere. Unfortunately, it's dinner for two. But
personally, I mean, look, there's old school Giants on that list, so you really can't. But I'll say this, and I pulled it up real quick. Bavaro, Kenny Strong, Jimmy Patton, Martin Marshall, okay. Pelt, excellent linebacker. Okay. Joe Morrison, if you're on this list, you had a hell of a career. Dependable guy, played for a while. I would have liked to have paid a little more homage to like guys like you. And again, I'm not saying it because we're friends and you're kind enough to join me on the air. I would have had you. I probably would have had you. I would have had you top 50, to be honest. Top 40. What are you at 68, 69? I mean, I think I told you this. I thought you were better back than Rodney Hampton. And I say that with respect.
Really?
Tiki was all purpose, but I thought you were better back. You were short yardage at first, but you ran hard, over 1,000 yards. You were a tone setter, and it's no disrespect to a guy like Rodney Hampton. And plus, you won 2 Super Bowls, right? Hampton wasn't on the 86 team. He won in 90. So that was my argument. Okay, 27 should have been retired. But I think they also went really, really, really old school, to be quite honest with you, with some of these guys that if you didn't follow the Giants or you haven't been a fan like I have for my entire life, you wouldn't know. But I would have put you, I would have ranked you. When I say higher, you know what I'm saying, and not higher, but vice versa.
So that's why I asked you, because I know you've been a Giants fan for a long time and you follow history of the franchise. So that's why I asked. These guys on the list, I don't even know who they are.
A lot of guys, yeah.
I asked you not to get like a different, but
no. They're. I mean, listen. You can. Shockey was a great tight end, but I can't sit there and say for the offense at the time he had the impact and say like a Bavaro did, right? But if you look at Toomer and Nix, they were big time weapons. Victor Cruz. When you look at those offenses, you can even make a case. You could have stuck Ahmad Bradshaw on that list too for impact within that 4 or 5 year stretch. But I think sometimes they look at quantity, how long you played. You're going to get.
Ahmad is on the list.
Is Ahmad on the list? I didn't even see it. I maybe glossed over. I'm a huge Ahmad Bradshaw fan. He ran angry to me. He ran
81 or something like that, somewhere around there.
Yeah, listen. I can't. The old guys. If you don't really know the history of the team, but it kind of shows you. Like, think about it. After you, Ahmad, Strahan, I think Pierce, Plaxico, Toomer, Nix. I could have made a case they could have put Stephen Baker or Mark Ingram or Lionel Manuel, guys that played in the 80s, who were really good wide receivers with the Giants. And, they just, they weren't on the list. So, all right, look at that. Now he's got 27 up there. He's buffering, right? So that's my cue. He's buffering. I don't want a cop to start knocking on.
What happened?
I got you. What I was just going to say is I could have made a case for some of these guys in the 80s. Mark Ingram, Stephen Baker, Lionel Manuel. Different time. So, but no, I think it's awesome that you're on the list. I would have still put your jersey up there in the rafters, but whatever. Who am I?
They're not going to do that shit. I mean, people keep trying to think, but every time somebody asks me this question, it kind of makes me mad because I don't know what goes into being in the Ring of Honor, Every single day, somebody comes on Instagram and say, you should be in the Ring of Honor. I say, dude, I don't have any control over the Ring of Honor. I don't know what's needed to be in the Ring of Honor. I've never played in the Pro Bowl. I don't know what actually needs to be done to make such
fan voting. I don't care about the Pro Bowl. Yeah, but you got these two. You got 2 of these.
I do have that.
And you had one of the greatest scenes ever. I think it was on Law and Order SUV. You were a bouncer.
I was. Can't get in the day.
All right, brother. I love you, man. I appreciate you jumping on board.
Have a good one, baby.
All right, man. Be good.
Thanks, Brandon.
There you have it, my guy. Brandon Jacobs, the 2-time Super Bowl champ with the New York Football Giants. I can talk with him.
Oh, yeah. Between story after story.
Yeah.
Listen, you can't. The one thing I will say about the network here, about Sports Radio 102.9 FM, the game, about Coastal Sports Network. If you bring it, just bring it raw, real. That's it, period. Because we're not zero filter, nothing.
Hey, and then we went into overtime, so we got to do picks on the other side. 10 after 5, quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontp.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Download the Sports Radio 102.9 FM, the game app, and tell your friends that Florida has a new leader in digital sports radio.
11 past the 5 o'clock hour. We knew we were going. I'm like, hey, Brandon, do me a favor. Give me like 10 minutes. I know you're running around. It was about 45 minutes, 50-something odd minutes. Ridiculous segment with the two-time Super Bowl champ, former New York.
Guarantee he would have kept on going with the stories and everything else he was having. He at least another 10 minutes, as long as the phone didn't die.
Listen, we'll get Brandon back on. He's fantastic. I'll tell you a funny story. So I reached out to him about 2 years ago, and I knew he was a big boxing guy. So I checked out. He was coaching a camp, and I called the camp and I said, hey, my name is Rich Quinones. I do some work for this boxing network. I know Brandon's a big boxing guy. I have a couple ideas I want to pitch to him. That's it. They said, shoot him an email. I shot him an email. I followed up and they said, give him a call. Put his number in there. I called him, left a message. He called me back. And it was like, I don't know, within like 20 seconds, right? Just down to earth. He's like, yo, man, thanks for reaching out. And hey, man, tell me what you're doing in boxing, blah, blah, blah. And then we just developed a very quick rapport. And then I said, look, you want to come on a pod? And we just had a scheduling conflict, but we had our 27 and Q pod. We did that for about 2 seasons. And we just gelled, but very accessible. I heard a story once when I believe he left the Giants, and when he went with San Francisco, I think a young kid was really upset that he left. And I think he spent time with his kid as well, like just to show him and gave him a jersey. I mean, that's the type of guy he is. But you wind him up. And when he told me when he was the gunner and cracked the kid's head, I was like, wow. And then when he told me the Russell Wilson story, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Now, Brandon will maintain his best hit, his hardest hit that he ever delivered was against Washington. And I argue with him. I don't think it was. I think it was a 3-yard gain against Green Bay in the NFC Championship. And he just bulldozed Charles Woodson because it set the tone. But for a running back to play in that era and carry the ball and run as hard as he did, he had a hell of a career. And I know, if you've asked him, he probably would have liked to stayed with the Giants an entire career, but he wanted to go see what was out there money-wise and have an opportunity with San Francisco. Got hurt, didn't pan out. But he's always got an opinion, man. And like I said, when I text him, I was like, hey man, there's no filter. And once those F-bombs started flying, I just knew, all right, let's go.
Yep. Pretty much that. The Shannon Sharp sound effect. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. I was like, all right, maybe I went down the rabbit hole on that one. Jerry, appreciate it, pal. We're going to have a lot of players come on, but we're definitely going to keep trying to get Brandon on. By the way, yes, go ahead, fire away.
Yeah, speaking of, by the way, breaking news, Niners coach Kyle Shanahan announces Christian McCaffrey has been ruled out of Sunday's game versus Minnesota, and team is considering running back for the injured reserve.
Ooh. So, I mean, it didn't affect them when they played the Jets with that backup, but since we're getting ready to segue into the pick segment, that line's in at 4.5. I think it was originally, I think it bled up to 5.5, so it moved a little bit. I got to check my notes on that one. Hey, last week I was 2-3, so we're going to make amends for week 2 of our picks from our good friends over at Play It Again Sports and Fresh Roasted Coffee, and also by our good friends over at Zen Auto Concepts. About 15 past 5 o'clock hour on the East Coast. Week 2 of Q's picks in a league where the players always back their play. All right, here we go. I mentioned that the Jets are a must-win scenario right now. I get it. Week 2, as we pretty much discussed throughout the entire show. I think this is an opportunity. They go on the road against the Titans that have zero offense, can play a little bit of defense. Here's your Aaron Rodgers. Let me turn back the clock. Aaron Rodgers, 3.5 Jets. They'll put up 20+. Give me the Jets on the road, laying the 3.5 against the Titans, game number 1. Game number 2, New Orleans Saints take a step back. They're not putting up 47. They're not beating Dallas in Dallas. Dak and that offense, they were averaging 17-point margin of victory, 20-point margin of victory last year. I think that trend continues. I'm comfortable with Dallas with the 6, and I think they're going to be able to air it out against the Saints. Could be a high-scoring game. So if anything, you might want to lean towards the over, 46.5. So give me Dallas and the 6. That's game number 2. Game number 3, I think it's going to be an ugly game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I particularly don't like unders because when they go over, you're screwed. Different story in this one. The Chargers laying 5 against the Panthers, who couldn't do anything offensively. Was not impressed by the Chargers, but the total is 39.5. Bump that up to 40. You got a player. Give me the under in the Chargers and the Panthers, game number 3. Game number 4, Kansas City. Very solid play right here. You can be creative. You can tease it, take them on a money line, have fun, close another. If you open up with Buffalo, close them with Kansas City. Give me the Chiefs at home. Something's wrong with that Cincinnati offense and Joe Burrow. Kansas City at home laying the 6 is game number 4. And then the final game, it's going to be the Eagles and the Falcons. I was going to give you this game on Monday night. We'll talk more about the game. Primetime Kirk Cousins, that offense looks stagnant. The Eagles offense woke up a little bit in Brazil. 6.5 the home opener. I think this is a spot where Philly rolls Atlanta. So I gave you the under in one play. And then we'll give you, as I mentioned, Dallas, the Jets, the Eagles, Kansas City, and the under your week 2 Q's picks right here on The Drive with Q on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The game powered by our good friends over at Play It Again Sports and Acorn to Oak. All right, so we got the dry hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, confidence level on those games is pretty high. You have to, week 2 is tough because you're still feeling out kind of like week 1.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Offenses, defenses, you got to figure it out. As far as the Giants, a lot of guys on Facebook, they love the spot with Brandon. I appreciate it, guys. We loved it too. I really don't have a read on this team. It would be very Giant-like, where the quarterbacks under pressure got crushed in the media, head coach already on the hot seat, GM's clueless, ownership needs to sell the team. It's a bad football team. And what do? They go out and they beat Washington. I told you, the weather is 76 on Sunday. 17-3, they go 3 and out to close the half. Guess where my ass is going to be? 17-14, they get the ball to start the second half because they deferred. Okay. I want to see him win a game, Angel. It pains me to see this team being so bad.
Good. I don't.
I think Brandon said What is that shit on you? You piece of shit.
Yeah, I let that one fly.
Oh man. And Bariglio, love the old NFL music. Appreciate it. NFL films. Absolutely. Sam Spencer, right? Sam Spencer with those sounds.
Yeah.
It's a week where if Jones can sit in the pocket and have some time to throw, show a little confidence, look, you get a win. The problem is on Monday, if they win 19-16 and he's 18 of 35 for $150 and an interception, they're still going to call for this kid to get benched, right?
Yep.
Thank you, Gas Pump Guy. Appreciate it. Yeah, we got some really good eyeballs today. You guys are fantastic. It's all about you guys. It's all about you guys chiming in, weighing in, getting involved in the conversation, comments, text board. You guys are fantastic. Getting some really nice eyeballs on X. And that's kind of where we're at week 2. You know, it could be a big week for Aaron Rodgers. It could be a big week, you know, a big Monday night. You know, Jalen Hurts has to go out, I think, silence some critics as well. Decision-making wasn't there. I didn't touch on this game too much, Pittsburgh and Denver, because Pittsburgh's going to keep playing Justin Fields as long as they win,
Right.
even if they score, 10, 13, 16 points. The other game I wanted to mention, and I didn't play it in the picks, but watch early on. If you guys say have a profitable 1:00, here's another game I think is a strong play. And it's not like Buffalo always owning Miami. They're laying 1. It's essentially a pick 'em at home. And the one thing that Arizona didn't do in their opener is get the ball to who? Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that changes on Sunday. I think Kyler Murray's going to take some shots down the field. The fact that Arizona covered, thank you, against Buffalo 6.5 and hung tough, they've got some confidence. Now they're back home. Plus they have the Lions, 2 games that they have to win early on in the season. Remember now, I picked them as a playoff team. If you're looking for maybe, and I'm not going to call it an upset, but if you're looking for a game, if you're profitable in the 1:00 hour, and depending upon how many units you play, if you're comfortable parting ways with a couple units, Arizona might be a good play. You might even want to take Arizona, and you might want to tease Arizona to get more points and then say bookend it with Kansas City, laying 6. And then basically all you're saying is go out Kansas City and just flat out win the game. And Kansas City's better than Cincinnati. And a couple guys, Matt in Delaware asked me this. He goes, when is Sean McDermott going to learn? And that goes back to the whole squib kick and the new NFL rules with the touchback. He didn't learn last week, and Arizona returned them. That's also something that bears worth watching. When you're watching these games, if you're thinking about betting these games as well, I mean, everything plays in a form, especially if you're thinking to yourself, hey, is there going to be a kickoff return for a touchdown or an anytime touchdown by a return guy or second half scoring? Like case in point, last night, Tua goes out. They're dominating that game. They're up, what were they up? 24-10, but you just knew it was Buffalo's night. Miami just looked very stagnant. Hill really didn't do too much. They couldn't run the ball with a ton of effectiveness. Conversely, Buffalo was able to run all over the place last night. I mean, Cook had 3 touchdowns or 2 rushing touchdowns. I think he had did he have a receiving touchdown? I believe he did.
He did.
Yeah, he had 3 total touchdowns. Point being is, if you said, hey, Buffalo +1 second half, you had to grab it. Even though they scored 7 points, when Tua goes out, you knew Miami's offense was not going to do anything. So there's moments in these games, if you're a live bettor, or if you do a lot of live in-game betting that you believe can be profitable, then, watch that, monitor that, right? And like I said, we have fun with the picks. I pick games that I'm comfortable with. And I'm not always looking at the team. I'm looking at the number. Then I'm looking at the team. Logic says New Orleans can't put up 47 points against Dallas. Even though Green Bay put up a lot of points in the playoff game, that offense is better than the Saints. You had to chuck down Charlie, quarterback, and Derek Carr, who was able to throw it against a bad Carolina team. They're not going to do that against Dallas. You might see Carr turn the ball over a little bit. Dallas should be able to move it and put up points. So again, you got Dallas at 6 and Kansas City at 6. If you're really not comfortable with those lines, tease them down. Now you're basically saying, okay, I've teased it down where Dallas just has to win the game at home. 75, 85% chance. Kansas City just has to win the game at home. 83, 84, 85% chance. And that's how I look at some of these things. Obviously, if you check out Back Your Play, we dropped a new show last night with Professor Shine. He's a sharp bettor. That's on my YouTube channel, Rich Q on Q, also Amazon Music, Spotify, also on SR 1029 FM The Game. He really looks into the numbers hard. He was all over Buffalo last night, went very heavy on Buffalo, loved them on the money line, played some player props, loved them in the second half as well. So we kind of give you a little more in-depth analysis of the games as opposed to just generically kind of doing our picks and talking X's and O's. But I think it'll be a fun week too in the NFL. And I know a couple guys asked me about the fights this weekend. I think Vince maybe commented. I want to get to it as well. Edgar Berlanga, Canelo Alvarez, Danny Garcia back in action against Lara. Berlanga is a guy that was a knockout artist early in his career. It was too easy. He was never pushed, as Brandon mentioned. Hasn't had a stoppage, I think, in 6 fights. Canelo wants to remind everyone that he's still one of the best fighters out there. Again, if you look at the odds, it's absurd. It's absurd. It's minus 2,000. So basically you're saying I got to lay $2,000 to win back, a couple bucks on Canelo. And a lot of times in boxing, in championship fights, the only way you make money is by betting on the underdog. Because typically in championship fights, they stay true to form. You kind of know the outcome. So if you think Berlanga is going to pull off an upset and he's got to box Canelo, he's got to stay in the pocket and he might get shot. He's got to get through the first couple rounds unscathed. Then you got plus 900. But as I mentioned, started 16-0, hasn't had a stop in 6 bouts. Saturday night, we'll be in Philly calling the fights. So if you guys want to order some boxing as well, Combat Sports Now, pay-per-view, it's RMB promo. So that should be a pretty good card. And that's pretty much it, man. 2.5 hours. Whew. It flew by today, did it not?
Sure did. Screen right on by.
Yes, it really did. You guys have been fantastic with the comments and the eyeballs. I know I didn't get to a lot of Giant fans' comments. I apologize, but trust me, Brandon will be back on. Trust me, he will be back on. Again, I mean, hell, I'd love to make it a weekly spot with him because you just never know.
Every game guns a-blazing the way he did today. Good.
Oh yeah,
Almighty.
but see, I know when I start to push him a little bit because that's when he wipes the brow, when he wipes the shiny head, and that's when he wants to, when I said Dion's his guy, so that's when he went kind of, that's when I had to, remind him, guns are illegal in Jersey. I don't think they are in Atlanta. All right, so got to start wrapping it up. Good stuff from Nick Costco and his pick of games. Lloyd Vance as well. You can catch him every Monday from 8 to 9 on Lloyd Vance's Insider Football Sports Radio 1029 FM The Game. And of course, 2-time Super Bowl champ Brandon Jacobs. Don't forget, start the week off right. Pete Shepard Show, Monday to Friday, 7 to 10. Martinez and company with me, Armando Angel Martinez, 10 to 12, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Myself, The Drive with Q, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 to, we'll say 5-ish. You have any PA announcing duties in Espanol? Do we have any lacrosse? Do we have any, look, we're getting the calls, the accolades. It's my agent. Do you have any PA duties, play-by-play? What do you got going on this weekend?
So tomorrow is USF women's volleyball at the Corral. That's at 2 p.m. And then at 6:30 will be Hispanic Heritage Night with the Tampa Bay Sun Football Club.
Okay.
That would be at 6:30. Tickets still available for both. You guys can visit sr1029thegame.com. Just click on the links there. You guys will see it on the homepage and just go out there and buy your tickets if you're down here in Southwest Florida. And then Sunday, the USF women's soccer is on the pitch at 6 p.m.
Get it right.
And so they're coming off the draw last night, so they'll be on the pitch on Sunday.
You just banging out the soccer terms, the pitch, the draw, 0-0, corner
right.
kick.
It's what we do. It's how we get it done here. Yes.
Hold on. Sam in Clearwater chiming in. Q, we need an update on your shows. I gave you Prison Break. So I started, I'll say it one more time. I started a new show.
Oh boy.
Dark Winds. I
heard that. How is it?
I like it. It is like it's set in the early 1970s it's about a Navajo tribal police department.
Right.
And it's interesting. It's interesting. I like those kind of shows because, it's suspenseful and it's written very well. The Old Man starts back up, by the way, Jeff Bridges. So if you haven't watched The Old Man, Tulsa King's out there as well. I still haven't gotten into Cobra Kai. I can't believe Steve McQueen's son died.
Yeah.
He was Chad in the original Karate Kid. I didn't know that.
Yuppers.
Yeah. 63.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of shows real quick, and I know because we have to run
go ahead.
overtime, but have you ever watched The Circle on Netflix?
No. I don't know why it took me so long to answer that, but no.
So quick rundown is like you putting 9 people inside of an apartment complex that we believe is an apartment complex. Could be a, extended stay, whatever. You don't ever meet the person until the very end when you're part of the final 5, you win $100,000. It's actually pretty good. It's almost like a social experiment because everybody goes into their apartments, have no idea who they are. You're just judging them by whatever they post up in the chat rooms. And then you pretty much, so you become a social media influencer, but not really social media influencer because it never goes out anywhere. But you become an influencer because then the top 2 get to vote out the bottom 2. So one person usually gets left, but it's season 6 and it just came on not too long ago. So it was a good one. By the way, Jerry from Rhode Island says Old Man and Tulsa King are very good.
Yeah, they are. Jeff Bridges is fantastic. I mean, who doesn't like Sylvester Stallone? I mean, come on, man.
Exactly.
Who doesn't like Sylvester Stallone? Even though, did you ever notice he was not the most intelligent guy when they started the Rocky franchise, but for some reason, after he got his ass handed to him in Rocky 2, he became really smart in Rocky 3, smarter in Rocky 4, but then he kind of went backwards in Rocky 5. Like, yeah, I guess you come full circle with it.
Pretty much.
I guess you come. But I'm glad we had a 2-time Super Bowl champ say, I would rather get knocked in the noggin than the knees. And by the way, that's a sound. That is a racket. That is a soundbite because that is, hey man, if I go, at least I can take care of my family. I was like, whoa.
I was really surprised about that one too, but listen, I had to bring it up because
no, that's a great, listen, that's a good catch. Because I would have been kicking myself if I didn't bring that up. And I would have been like, Hakim, you didn't friggin' turn on your microphone and, do one of your things, and flipping the pigeons, right? And all of a sudden,
that's what I do.
Well. All right. Hey, don't forget to download the app. Check out SR 1029 FM The Game. Just go online, SR1029thegame.com. And you see all the programming. As I mentioned, we've added some more shows. Marshall Time with Jonathan Marshall, Talking Hoops. You got Let's Chat with Kat and Pat. And oh, by the way, stations in the Florida market. Can you do me a friggin' favor? If you're going to take my poll question, at least credit The Drive with Q, Sports Radio 1029 FM The Game, Coastal Sports Network. That's it. Just be nice. Just give me a little credit where credit is due. All right, for Angel Martinez, I'm Rich Quinones. Special thanks, Lloyd Vance, Nick Costco, our guy, Brandon Jacobs, 2-time Super Bowl champ and top 100 Giant of all time for jumping on this edition of a Football Friday of The Drive with Q. Rich Quinones here. Everyone have a wonderful sports weekend. As always, enjoy the football. Tonight, college. Tomorrow, college. Sunday with the pros, the baseball, the pennant races. A lot of baseball next week. Heavier with the football. We also have some other special guests that we're going to be rotating in and out of the lineup. We'll keep them in the Q room as well. Don't forget, follow everyone on social media. Have a good sports weekend. We'll be back in the saddle Monday. As always, be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.